Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to PWW Talks. I am your host, Daniel Burke, and I am ever joined by my co-host, Mac. And also tonight we have two special guests, as we are going to, well, actually, Mac, you should introduce yourself to the public and say hello.
Hello.
Hello. My best friend of over 20 years and fellow wrestling fan, who is ever my co-host. He'll be joining us again tonight. And, of course, we have super producer Dave joining us tonight. And one of my favorite absolute guests returning to the program once again, former play-by-play broadcaster, host of WCW Worldwide, and also Global Wrestling Federation on ESPN. I am talking about the incomparable Scott Hudson. Scott, thank you for coming on to the program again and bringing your presence to the program. I am so excited to have you back.
I did not bring any presents, so I'm sorry if I should start reading my email. Dan, David, Mac, thank you for having me. I always look forward to this. You guys are nuts. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm glad that you consider us nuts instead of other things. Like, you know, like, you're just coming on here and you're just like, he's holding us against our will.
Meanwhile, at the end of the show, he's going to be like, all right, jerk-offs. Fuck you. Never coming back again.
I'm never coming back.
We kind of got that once from somebody else.
Wow.
You know, he may not have called us jack-offs, but I got a very strongly worded message.
Oh, is that
Things
the
don't
one?
always work. That's the Tennessee, the Memphis guy.
Oh, that one. Oh, yeah, because he was mad that his boys talked for 4 hours and we couldn't shut the thing off. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, the short version, and we might have our short version so we don't like get sued. They had a long show, and I guess they were supposed to do something, but they were caught up in our show, and I guess they forgot or whatever, and he couldn't get a hold of him, and the promoter kind of freaked out, and that was largely the end of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's like we tried to control it, and the guys wouldn't stop. So it was like...
So by all means, Scott, if you're ready to tell us to shut the fuck up, we won't be offended.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that at all.
We learned.
The night is young. The night is young.
The night is young.
That's
it's
true.
only it is only the first like 10 minutes, exactly.
Give me time.
So tonight, our subject, as we are, because I believe last time we talked about the Great American Bash of 1991 for WCW. Tonight, we are taking another turn. We are talking about, because it is Halloween season, the season of spookiness, we are going to talk about the Halloween Havoc of 1991, which I believe is the first one under the WCW banner completely, because they were still under the NWA in 1989 and 1990. And also, this event took place on the night of October 27th, 1991. Also, this needs to be kept in mind. I actually did a little research on this today. Because of the fact that they were mentioning that I think Paul Heyman had mentioned off-key to Eric Bischoff that he was backstage watching the World Series. So, of course, I had to go back and look up that the 1991 World Series Game 7 was going on at the exact same time as
correct.
Halloween Havoc. And, of course, 1991 World Series was between the Minnesota Twins and Ted Turner-owned Atlanta Braves. And Game 7, of course, was the Jack Morris, John Smoltz 1-0 10-inning classic. Of course, that came the night before, was the famous Kirby Puckett game, the game-saving catch, and then Jack Buck with the infamous, and we will see you tomorrow night, when Kirby Puckett hit the walk-off in Game 6. So Game 7 was now going on at the same time as Halloween Havoc. So the focus of not only the sports world was on the World Series, but also Turner as well. They could have done whatever they wanted that night, and probably no one would have batted an eye because they were too focused on the World Series, which was still a Turner property.
And you're exactly right. But the thing to remember of this is we're at UTC Arena in Chattanooga, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever been this far south, but Chattanooga even back then, is pretty much suburban Atlanta. It's closer to Atlanta than it is to Nashville. And there's some gaps in between there as far as civilization, but Chattanooga and Atlanta are pretty close together. Same market, not the same television market, but the same general market, like with Huntsville and all of southern Tennessee. So they put this thing at the UTC Arena, the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga Arena, and against the Braves playing. This was our worst to first year. This is the first year we haven't just
both teams were worst to first. Yes,
and I don't understand it. Never have, never will, because we were all under the same corporate umbrella. We all went to the same Christmas party, but they screwed it up. They screwed up a lot this night.
You still drew it. You still drew almost 9,000 fans considering the World Series. That's actually impressive.
That is incredible, except well over half of that was comped.
I'm sure.
Fair enough.
Because of the fact that it was...
I didn't work for him, and I was comped.
Oh, you were there as a fan?
Yeah.
Cool.
How are you getting updates during the World Series?
I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
It's 1991. Technology doesn't exist.
Yeah, I just figured, it's a WCW pay-per-view.
Well, you say that, David, but I remember, Dan, you probably remember this too. We went to that Metallica show.
We did.
And they kept announcing the scores.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's possible that they could have done it that way, but sounds like that was not happening.
But true. Yankees are up 1.
No, we were at, it was 2004, and it was the Game 2. It was the night of Game 2 of the World Series in Boston. The Red Sox were hosting the Cardinals. And this, of course, was the year that they came back from 3-0 against the Yankees.
Yep.
And it was kind of like a reverse sweep. Swept the Yankees pretty much through games 4 and 7, and 4 through 7. And then it was the Cardinals.
I remember
so
this.
Game 2 was going on the same time as the Metallica concert that was at the TD Bank North Garden. So it was literally a stone shot away. We actually drove through Fenway. I have never been in a more electric atmosphere than I was that night, as far as the city was probably the most alive I've ever seen it, because you had not only the biggest metal band in the world playing, but on top of that, the team that everybody at this point was just ravenous for a world championship, and we were on the doorstep. And it was, again, just an electric atmosphere. And I never got that sense with the Atlanta Braves, however, as far as they had a 15-year run of winning division championships, only one World Series, but
Correct.
Still a 15-year run. And half the time, those playoff games weren't selling out.
That year it did, and it got to the point, and this sounds like first world problems, but when you go to the DS and the CS and the series, at least one of the three, if not two of the three, every year for 15 years, the newness wears off, you know? But that first year, you couldn't, I'll never forget those. I mean, we had a parade. We lost the series, and we had a parade in downtown Atlanta. That it was so hot. And over time, when we finally won the series in '95, I think, over Cleveland.
Yes.
That was it. We got our series. And then it started, because then we had the Olympics coming in, which was also a hot ticket. And
then you hosted another World Series against the Yankees the following year. Correct.
And we had, so that, it kind of like the new had worn off.
So I got a question for you, since you were a fan in attendance. What were you doing in those days for a job, since you weren't in WCW?
Oh, for a real job?
Yeah,
I was. Let's see. This was '91. I was still working for the state of Georgia in the administration of the State Board of Pardons and Paroles down at the state capitol in downtown Atlanta. I managed and supervised an 8th of Georgia. We had 8 areas, and mine was the northeast Georgia area: Athens, Canton, Gainesville, Jefferson, those cities. and I managed a staff of about 120, 130 people that were supervising folks under parole supervision. I was also play-by-play announcer for Georgia All-Star Wrestling then with Joe Pedicino.
So you were in the wrestling business still?
Okay.
Yeah, I was already doing that, and I think had we started Global yet in October of '91? I think Global was going.
Yeah,
Global, I thought it started in like 90. I could be wrong though.
It was somewhere around through there, so I might have been doing Global too. I can't remember.
Because I thought, didn't they start right after Vern and the AWA and ESPN split? Like, weren't they trying to fill that hole after that?
Yeah, when USWA hit the bricks out in Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah, what fans don't know in 1991 is that the wrestling crash that almost brought wrestling down in the early 90s is well on its way at this time.
Oh, it's begun.
Oh, it has. It hasn't affected WWF too much, and WCW is just beginning to really take it but the smaller promotions are collapsing everywhere. And some places like Missouri never recovered. Missouri used to be the home of two major two major territories, and now Missouri has a tiny, even by compared to the rest of the country, indie scene, because it never recovered from the wrestling crash of the early 90s.
The only one I felt like that had consistent promotion there was Sam Mushnick. Everybody else was kind of like, as soon as he got out of it.
Well, Harley Race was running KC for a while.
Yeah, Harley was doing all right with that. I mean, and I think Bob Geigel, too. I think Geigel was running Kansas City with Harley until he bought in. Geigel was the NWA president for years during the late 70s, early 80s. And I'm sure that's probably too inside baseball for people because they're just like, who's that guy? He's the guy that was the main one talking at the press conference from Starrcade 83. When they were doing the introductions for Starrcade 83, Flair for the Gold, Geigel was the one making the announcement that it was going to be held in Greensboro. And Ric Flair's talked about him considerably in his book, called him sheep a couple of times. The huge. But it is interesting. Scott, did you feel like that you were going to be able to maybe move up in another somehow? Was that still a goal for you of working for one of the major promotions in 91, or were you just kind of happy with what you were doing?
I was certainly not holding out any hope for it. I'm still looking back on, I was just a mark that got lucky. I worked hard, so there is that. But if it did happen, so it's easy to say now. But if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. I was very happy doing that Georgia show with Joe Pedicino and with Stephen Prazak, my best friend. That we were deliriously happy doing that, and
How was that company doing right around the time of this show? Were they up on the way up, or were they on their way down, or kind of like somewhere in the middle?
Which one? The Georgia group?
The Georgia company. Yeah.
It was never a big deal.
Yeah.
It had. You remember you've heard those stories about Joe Pedicino having that 8-hour wrestling block on Channel 69 in Atlanta. Yep. It had an hour on that block, obviously, because it was his group, and then it had a syndicated network of television stations around the northern half of Georgia, maybe 10 stations, and they would run towns off of that and run house shows that would draw 200 people, 250 people. So it was a small territory, but
so it was almost like an indie, but we don't call it that in 91.
Yeah, it was probably the really first indie, really. Except it had television, because there was no internet, obviously. You had to go out and make tapes and send them out and make copies and whatever.
Pedicino was pretty innovative for his day.
As far,
I've seen a lot of documentaries, and his name comes up a lot as far as national expansion and trying to I think he was trying to do national expansion like the 70s.
He would have if he could have. He didn't have Vince's money, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Georgia might have been the first Well, the Georgia promotions in general might have been some of the first places that thought about the idea of going national. Them and Vern. I know Vern had the idea in the '70s, but I just don't think it. But it never really came about.
Yeah.
And then they got that ESPN slot in the '80s, and then that's actually technically the first national telecast of wrestling, I do believe, with the exception of the Lou Thez era in the '50s.
Well, you did have, Georgia Championship on TBS. You had WWF on WWOR out of Secaucus. And then you had, Joe Blanchard, Southwest was on USA.
Yeah, they were on USA before Vince.
So
Cool.
it had tried, but it had failed as far as a national promotion. They were on nationally. All of those WWOR, TBS, which was WTBS then, and USA were all national cable companies, but they didn't really try to promote nationally until Vince started really in earnest in 1985.
Yeah.
I think AWA was also on WGN, which was starting to become a superstation out of Chicago.
That's correct.
They were also, I think, on the Dumont network, or the DuPont network in the 50s, which was trying to. They were originally the first superstation that was really trying to make a play. They were pretty innovative, but at the same time, they just, they didn't have the staying power as some of the other stations have been. Which it's really interesting now with the media landscape. Does a lot of the things have been happening, Scott? Like a lot of with the impending Warner Brothers sale, do things kind of remind you of what happened in 2000, 2001, where the media landscape is starting to shrink a little bit?
It in the overall it feels the same, but the quality and intelligence and talent of the people involved is very different. They're smarter now. I mean, we were dealing with people like Gerald Levin and Jamie Kellner back in 2000 and 2001 who, they can't tie their own shoes. And but now we've got better people in charge of things, and I think everything will work out for wrestling. But number one, because wrestling's hotter now than it was back then, and it's still a good product, and it's a relatively cheap product to put on. So I think it will weather this current storm with
I think
Discovery,
so
Time Warner, and this the Paramount stuff and everything else that's going on. I think it'll come through okay.
Well, surely, I mean, you never know. Sometimes corporate people are really stupid, but surely some people, Warner Brothers and all the other anybody who else is interested, can look back at look back at what happened to AOL Time Warner when they got rid of WCW. A lot of fans don't know this, but even though WCW was $40 million into the hole, give or take, I did a lot of heavy research over this over the past month, and it turned out that AOL Time Warner, losing WCW caused him to drop so far in the ratings that it knocked him out of the top 10, and it cost him. The lowest estimate I could find is it might have cost him well over $250 million because of the dropped ad value, and may have directly contributed to the later collapse of the later financial near bankruptcy in like 2003, 2004. So it cost him more money to actually get rid of WCW than it would have cost him just keep it on the air and pay at a loss.
Correct, and WCW, if you look at the books, did have a in the red bottom line, but it does come with an asterisk, and that is advertising revenue that came in to AOL Time Warner was the advertising revenue. It wasn't the advertising revenue from WCW. Everything was put into that, so it didn't show that WCW was generating a lot of money in advertising revenue because it didn't come to us. What we were doing was losing money on expenses versus revenue streams of everything except advertising. And we were hemorrhaging money from house shows, not doing anything, and pay-per-views really doing poorly for that last year.
You also weren't getting the pay-per-view money. That was going to Turner Home Entertainment.
Correct. And
because
so
they were the distributor.
Right. So AOL Time Warner was doing better, but the people that was in charge, again, the Jamie Kellners and Gerald Evans and those people, and Brad Siegel, they couldn't see the forest for the trees. They didn't know that if they cut their legs off at the knees, they were going to be shorter. They couldn't pick up on that. They didn't know that if they killed WCW, that was going to kill a great deal of advertising revenue from that income stream.
There's something that a lot of people don't know about the ratings, and that applies today, and it's the main reason why AEW is more than likely to be able to stay at least for a while. Is that the ad rates for all programming is based on your relative position in, well, there's a lot of factors, but one of the factors is charts. If a network is making, if a network itself is in the top 10 most viewed, they get more ad value per click, I think, or not click, but per view or whatever.
Right.
Their ads have more value to them. If they're in the top 10 and then they suddenly get knocked down to 25, for example, the advertisers will drop the amount they're willing to pay, and not just for WCW, or not just for any wrestling promotion or anything else, but or the time slot, but for everything. If they happen to be running syndicated Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they drop ad rates for that because the network is down, and that's where getting rid of WCW really kicked them in the balls, and that's why Warner Brothers seems really happy, as long as they stay in business, to keep AEW around despite AEW problems, because I suspect they're afraid the same thing would occur. Because
I think you're exactly right. The old way of labeling this was called an ad card or a rate card, that you would sell your advertising to advertisers with a rate card. We guarantee you, Home Depot, and Home Depot is not involved in this, but we say, Home Depot, we guarantee you 3 million viewers on your ad, and in exchange, you pay us $110,000 every time your ad is run. Great. Sounds good. And if the show or the network or the show delivers more, well, all the better. But if it doesn't deliver the 3 million, if it delivers 2.3, that rate card, that contract will say you will make good ads. We will run your ad X number of more times,
right,
for free. And to get more eyes on your advertising that you don't have to pay for, because we didn't deliver the guaranteed audience for your advertising. And in WCW, we were giving them what they had promised, and most of the time over-delivering. People look at the ratings, say, WCW was down to a 1.8. Well, that's fine. We had only guaranteed them a 1.1, and everybody was happy. They paid for that. They paid for what they got. But they couldn't see that. They just said 1.1, we can do better with, the Jeffersons reruns on TNT or whatever they were doing.
And then they did worse.
And then it did worse.
Knocked them out of the top 10. Knocked them hard. Within 3 months of WCW's closure, I believe 3 months, according to my research, AOL Time Warner stations had dropped out of the top 10 completely. They were like 6 or 7 most viewed network, and then they were like way out, and it got worse and worse and worse. And on top of that, they were still having to pay people like Kevin Nash for another 2 months. Or 2 months.
And they were, and not knocking Kevin, because I was one of those too, but while they were earning no money, generating no revenue at all for the corporate entity.
Oh yeah. Anyway, that's a nice little story, little history for 2001.
This is great. This is really bringing the room down. Damn. I was looking forward to El Gigante.
Oh boy!
Oh
God! Oh.
How about the first time in WCW history somebody just no-sells death, aka Abby the Butcher? First time, the Giant does it again.
I'm still trying to just how that is. This might be the worst opening contest in the history of the industry.
Think about
I cannot
this.
think of any other event or show for that matter that started out worse. Like,
Trying to think.
Like,
I
I'm
wanted
sure
to defend
that-
it, but I'm having a hard time.
That abortion of a pay-per-view down in that Blackjack Brawl down in Biloxi probably was.
Oh.
I'm sure there was, the AWA Wrestle Rock probably was. But look at the talent in that opening match.
I know.
I mean,
Foley?
forget
Hall of Fame list.
You got Sting, Steiners, Abby, Scott Hall, Cactus, and Vader.
Yeah.
How does that miss? That should have been the main event.
It's overbooked. It's
Well,
overbooked.
Jim Herd, the Russo before Russo. The PG
That's
Russo.
excellent. That's excellent.
That's
Because
excellent.
it was the ultimate result of committee
Pizza
booking.
Man! It's Pizza Man, everybody! How the hell can
Yeah,
you take that guy seriously? He comes in, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Scott, but it's like,
No, it's all right.
how can you take that guy seriously when he walks in the door trying to be like General Patton when he has never, the only reason that he got the job was because he was friends with somebody that knew Ted, and he was the station manager in St. Louis where Wrestling of the Chase was on. That was the only credit that he had to be in the wrestling industry, and he had nothing to do with it. He was the station manager of the TV station, and then he was an executive at Pizza Hut. And then they're just like, hey, guess what? You're going to run WCW.
I found out that the dude was dude's still alive. He looks nothing like what he did in the 90s.
Yeah, he looks rough, but he's 86, 7 years old. All right, here's some inside baseball gaga that I don't know if I've ever told anybody on any show.
Yes.
You need this.
This is the UTC Arena, and Steve Prazak, again, my best friend, and John Horton, who was Craig Johnson, the announcer on Global with me and on USWA for a couple of years.
Are we talking wrestler Johnny Horton or a different John Horton?
No, his TV name was Craig Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Tall, very tall, way taller than me. I'm 6'1", and he's like 6'4". We towered over the guys when we were doing interviews. So the three of us get comped in to UTC Arena. We actually got comped in by Compton, Casey Compton, who was the promoter of the show. So Compton comped us in. So we go. And now we're up in the next level up, but UTC is not a huge arena. So we got great seats. So we go up and, wherever Casey had given us the seats, we sit down and in walks Jim Herd and sits with the three of us for that whole opening thing. And we're all just sitting there. We knew who Jim Herd was, but he was trying to sit with the people, and up in the cheap seats, and everybody was just laughing at it. And he, John, and I love John to death, but John was doing everything he could to kiss Herd's ass to get a job. Mr. Herd, I think this is a very exciting and entertaining match. I'm really impressed with the production values on it. And we're over here going, this is the worst thing since, the Russell Rock music video.
This is the drizzling shits. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And
the show itself isn't that horrible. The show, the whole pay-per-view as a whole isn't that horrible, but you start
half the matches could have been on fucking Main Event or Saturday Night. Come on.
There's like 4 matches under 5 minutes too.
Like Big Josh
WCW in the 90s, most of the matches could be on Saturday
Creatures. The fucking Creatures is a tag team, and you're trying to sell that this was a good show.
I didn't say all the matches were good.
In looking at this, it reminded, because I went back and watched it in preparation for this, it reminds me a lot of that first one-night stand of Vince's rebrand or relaunch of ECW. Remember where he had the zombie and all that other bullshit?
Yeah.
It was like they were just trying to. Yeah.
It was the sci-fi show.
On Sci-Fi.
Yeah. And then the next week, it was like a Lucha Libre guy. Like,
the most impressively named vampire ever, Kevin.
Hey, Ariel's all right.
Not Vlad, not Dracula,
Ariel's
not
all right.
Alucard, not even Gangrel. Kevin.
Come on, he really got. But I mean, we can't knock his valet. I mean, that entrance was fantastic with the bat. I mean, come on.
The interesting
you
thing I most
really-
remember was when he was the white imitation Undertaker, as they tried to run with
Mordecai,
I think. Yeah,
yes.
that was actually kind of a neat entrance, but it was also unfortunate. It was like Dustin Rhodes' 7. It wasn't going to work. It was a great entrance, but the whole thing wasn't going to work.
But this is, I mean, they couldn't, the instrument of torture, they couldn't even call it an electric chair.
One guess as to why.
Well,
this is the same era as the international object, so
As the international object,
So
I'm surprised they let us use juice in this thing.
but it's like, because I thought there was a no blade policy, because I remember in '89 when
they're all watching the World Series. Who cares if someone bleeds?
well, that's true. You can get away with it. You're right, because you're right. Nobody from Turner Executives watching it because they're watching the World Series. Yeah. But there was such a big deal in '89 when Terry Funk and Flair had that match, Great American Bash, where they both bladed, and because there was that no blade policy in Maryland, but that also too, like nobody in at that point
Maryland
was really
health
blading.
guys are assholes.
You were still in the midst of that was peak HIV.
One of the things I think Vince did right was getting away from some of those guys.
Well,
even though he had to expose the business to do it.
Well, that was a tax break. That was just like, I want to run the metal.
Well, he also didn't. I'm sure Vince also didn't like the idea that an athletic commission could stop one of his matches and do a finish that he didn't approve of, because they could technically do it. That's
true. They could. Sometimes WCW uses it to his advantage. I think that that Flair Lex Luger match where Luger had him in the torture rack, and so everybody's thinking,
pisses me off to this day.
Everybody's thinking Flair just quit. Nope, it's because of the cut on Lex Luger's like above his eye, which really wasn't even that bad. But the referee stopped the match. Flair retains. Love it.
Pisses me off to this day. That bugs me to this day. That was
not as their worst finish still in a Lex Luger Ric Flair match was that cage match at Capital Combat where Luger won by disqualification. How the hell do you have a disqualification in a cage match?
Why does that man keep having matches where he wins, but he doesn't actually win the title? It's like SummerSlam, except it hasn't SummerSlam '93, except it hasn't happened yet.
Well, he's in the main event tonight, which we'll discuss.
Yeah,
but this
But
this is I've never seen a match like that. This is the fact that Scott was in the building for this, and you didn't want to you never wanted to watch the business. If you should have quit that night after watching this. I would have been
like, God, he didn't.
Even though he got comped. Well, no, I know that, but at the same time, it's like retrospectively, I watch this now, and I'm like, I think I might have quit the business after this.
Well, thank God there was the rest of the show.
Well, yeah,
the rest of the I was just defending this. Hey, quick question for you.
Go ahead.
What do you think of since we probably don't have many chances to talk about this? So, what do you think of Scott Hall's Magnum PI look? Because this is his Magnum PI era of his look.
Scott was. There was a Mystery Science Theater 3000 line in their take on the movie Mitchell with Joe Don Baker, where one of the bots said, as an actor, Joe Don Baker had not yet found his instrument. And I think when Scott was doing the Diamond Stud, he had not yet found his instrument. But he was getting there because the Diamond Stud is only a quarter of a tone removed from Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
And before that, he had been Gator Scott Hall and Big Scott Hall and all this other. But obviously, once he got to be Razor Ramon, he found his instrument, and it honestly was just being himself. That's how he was in real life. Look
at all this top tier talent that they fired within a couple years and within a few years' time.
Especially El
If you really want to do a deep dive and have your heart broken, watch or research the background of this match, because Vader wasn't supposed to be in it. It was supposed to be one-man gang. and Gang quit the promotion that week because he didn't want to do a job for PN News.
I can understand this.
And Cactus wasn't supposed to be in it. That was supposed to be Barry Windham, but Barry had broken his wrist, I think, on the Clash leading up to this.
They did the injury angle. Yeah.
They did the little
They
crunch
did the
thing.
injury angle where they slammed Barry's wrist in Dusty's Mercedes car door and aired that in the pre-show.
He becomes Larry the Cruncher later.
I'm sorry?
Larry Zbyszko started getting called the Cruncher after that for a little while.
Correct. He was the Cruncher.
Yeah.
That's right. And, so Cactus and Vader were supposed to be out. They're supposed to be Barry and Gang. So I won't say that Cactus was better than Barry, but injured Barry wouldn't have been all that great. And Vader's infinitely better than one-man Gang. But it was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be Gang that went into the electric chair.
No.
They had to change that to Abby. So, and again, the
instrument of torture, not
the breakdown
not
of this, and just what a complete cluster it was before the match started, is just heartbreaking.
I one of my favorite. Speaking of the parking lot angle, one of my favorite lines ever that I've heard recently was Diamond Dallas Page as he was trying to get interviewed by Bischoff. He looks at Bischoff and he says, "What are you doing? Parking cars now, Eric?" That made me popped. That made me pop so much. But considering the talent in this match, I mean, I'm surprised Vader didn't just look at them and said, "No." Like,
He wasn't in a position to say no yet.
He still had Japan. He could have just said no and just went to Japan. And he in Japan, with those guys were getting paid infinite amount, probably what they were with WCW even. I mean, because you look at what we'll see the Freebirds later. It's like they never got Terry Gordy like full time. Like Terry Gordy was always in and out of the company. Out of that time, because he would just take off and go to Japan, because again he would just make infinitely more money, because WCW is not at the point yet where they're paying guys like multi-million dollars.
In the United States, while wrestling's getting ready to crash, Japan's about to have its next big wrestling boom, first with the King's Road and then a couple years later New Japan. So it's kind of, because what people don't know about the industry at the landscape right now is that America's on its way down, Japan is on its way up. So that's probably where a lot of guys were thinking. That's where they're probably seeing the dollar signs. Hogan did it in 2 years after this show.
It's very true.
Right.
It's all Japan first and then New Japan. They both really boom. They get some of the biggest. Now, I'm not a big expert on Japanese wrestling, but it's my understanding that the 92 to 95 shows still hold some of the best attendance records in some of the Japan wrestling promotions.
It was some of the best work, I can tell you that. Still is.
Especially the King's Road series. I mean, that might be the best, probably, in-ring product in the history of the industry.
Well, it redefined wrestling product itself, and you can see its influences even today.
I remember about Vader, though, he desperately wanted to break in to the United States because, he just didn't dislike going to Japan, but if he could make close to the same money and never leave the States, he'd do that. And, he was doing what he was told. Plus, this was one of the last entrances he made with that headdress.
That's true.
Which is one of my favorite things ever. Oh, that was awesome. And there was a guy on WCW's staff whose job was to be out there with Vader and hit the gimmick to make it shoot steam or whatever. That was his whole gig. He was Vader's ring entrance guy.
It's all right. Vader's going to get the perfect booker for him in about 4 months.
Yeah.
He's going to get the everything he is going to want in life. He just has to wait about 6 months, and everything is going to start falling into place.
Bill Watts might have turned off all the lights on the WCW shows, but he did give Vader his big push.
Bill Watts, if you watch Super Brawl 2 and everything that went on, everything from on then until probably I think Super Brawl 3, the in-ring product, and everybody talks about, oh, well, you didn't want people jumping off the top rope. The angles and the in-ring product was so far ahead of WWE, it wasn't even
Super
fun.
Brawl 2 is under Kip Allen Frey, though. I don't think it's Bill Watts don't take over until about the summertime.
No, Bill is just starting to come into power around then.
Yeah, he's just starting. It's like there's like a transition thing going on.
Because that show was very but actually you're right. He takes over the Great American, but you start to see it at Super Brawl, and then the real kickoff is Great American Bash in '92, because that show is just like that show just demoralizes like every baby face in the world. It's literally the Empire Strikes Back in WCW. It's like, oh yeah, every heel is just literally just going to destroy everybody tonight.
Can I tell you guys a quick story?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You're talking about the Cowboy. I was working for the state, and I still was working for the state of Georgia at this time, and they were putting me through some sort of management training. Like you guys have real jobs. You go. They put you through this to do something. So they said, Scott, we're going to put you through management training. Terrific. What do? Well, you're going to go spend a week, a month at CNN Center and training for management positions with this crowd. Great. So I do that. So I'm down there one day, and it's in the South Tower, which is where WCW's headquarters are. I'm going up to like the fifth floor. Boy. So I walk down to CNN from my office, just, 4 or 5 blocks, walk into the building, hit the elevator. It's secure, so you have to have an ID and you have to be approved to go up. And I was, because I was going up to the training for the state of Georgia. And there's a lower level to the elevator that starts at the parking deck, which is the employee parking. So the guy lets me and goes, oh, you're good. This elevator's coming up, jump on. Great. So I jump on, and Gordon Soley is on that elevator. Oh. Because he's going up to the WCW offices on the 12th floor. So I thought, well, this is cool. He's Gordon. And so I'm going to go all the way up to where he is and then come back
Mr.
down.
Mr. Hudson, how are you?
No, he didn't. He had no idea who I was. And so I go up, and I'm just being polite, not marking out for him. And then on the next floor, one floor up, the door opens and Cowboy walks in. And I don't know if he was even working. He might have been interviewing. And he walks in and says, Soley, you old drunk. On this elevator is me, Gordon Soley, who I don't think was drunk, and Cowboy Bill Watts, who was accusing Gordon of being drunk. And we rode to the 12th floor together. They got off. I hit the door close and went back down to management training.
And meanwhile, marking out silently in the back of your mind.
Oh, yeah, the whole time. So I told Pedicino that story, and he goes, and? I said, what do you mean, and? He goes, you didn't ask him for a job? You didn't ask to get an interview or an audition or anything? No.
Typical wrestlers sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the mentality. You didn't ask for a job? It's like, no.
Think of the angle we could have run off of that.
Yeah, that is awesome. Did you meet anybody else that day? That was
No. I went back to training. That was it. When I left training, I went back to my office and drove home.
I think that's kind of how Eric Bischoff got kind of started. I think he was just up there training, and then just like some people saw him, and the next thing you know, he gets hired.
Oh, he was
for early WCW. Which he's here at Halloween Havoc dressed as Dracula today.
Oh, good Lord. It's like you look at Bischoff at this time period, and it's just like he's almost looks like Todd Pettengill from WWE. Like he's got that
less annoying than Todd
vibe.
Pettengill.
Exactly, he's less annoying, but at the same time, and also, because Pettengill is a little talented, not completely. But then, like with Bischoff, he's just like, I'm just happy to be here, guy. And because he's just happy to be there.
He might be a little bit of a big blue Boy Scout going on doing that, but I will absolutely argue that Bischoff was way more on-screen talented than Todd Pettengill. Todd Pettengill is a great radio voice, but as soon as you see his face, you would change the station, which is why he works on radio, because you don't get to see his face. Whereas Bischoff, to me, is even when even when he's in like the early point in his career, when he's like doe-eyed, and you know what I mean.
Like
even
this
then,
period.
He's infinitely more listenable to and viewable to me than Todd frickin' Pettengill. I mean, the only thing Todd Pettengill got going for him, as far as I'm concerned, about accomplishments of the industry is bringing in Michael Cole, and we had to sit through 10 years of Michael Cole being irritating before he wasn't. And then just as soon as he wasn't, he turned heel and gave us 3 more years of irritating. So I blame Todd for that, too. Ugh.
Wow.
And Scott's just sitting there, and he's just like, "I'm better than Pettengill." It's like, yeah, you are.
I've never met him. I know who he is, but all right, next match. I'm really pumped to get to the next one.
Oh, of course, because I don't think anybody has ever said that about a fucking PN News match. Like,
what'd you think about that rap? Next Eminem, or rather, first Eminem, the PN News rap.
I think he had several hundred M&Ms that day.
God.
He was
several hundred bags.
Yeah, he was.
Yo, baby, please just stop. Like, why is this even a thing?
He's not Biggie Smalls. He's just Biggie.
Oh God.
Yeah, he's Biggie Biggs. I walked into center stage one night for a TV taping, and somehow we had conned our way into getting in before the doors opened. And we were just sitting in there, me and Steve Prazak and John Horton, and we're sitting in center stage, and trying not to call attention to ourselves because they would have kicked us out. So we were just being quiet and not obtrusive and not raising hell, while Dusty taught Paul New how to rap. They were in the ring, and Dusty was teaching him how to do. Yeah, Dream was teaching him how to do the yo baby, yo.
Oh, gosh.
I think Dusty did his best with a lost cause.
Yeah, well, it was Dusty's idea, so I'm not going to give him too much of a pass on that.
I mean, I understand, but at the same time, it's like, I understand he's trying to make a babyface. I always felt like just just pick some random dude, give him like a Vanilla Ice gimmick, and just make him into a heel and see if that works. That probably would have, I thought, caught on better than the idea of PN News.
Of course, Big Josh is sometimes Big Josh is none other than Doink the Clown.
Yes, Matt.
A lot of people won't recognize him because he's not dressed up as a clown.
And think about what you just said, David. WCW. Now, first off, Matt Bourne. Well, has his demons, has his issues, no question. Was always a nice guy every time I met him. And I don't think anybody says anything really bad about him, personally. He just had real problems. Not the least of which was why he and Arn got broken up in '83 in Georgia Championship, and Arn stayed and Matt didn't. But they bring in Matt Bourne and come up with Big Josh, which is so dumb. Just dumb.
That's Regal man's man gimmick about 7 years before it happens in WWE.
Correct. And so then Matt leaves and goes to the WWF and becomes Doink and becomes super over and makes tons of money. That tells you exactly where those booking mindsets were in the company, in both companies at the time. Same guy, same talent, literally and figuratively. And one was Big Josh, and one was Doink the Clown.
His evil gimmick, the evil Doink gimmick, was so underrated. Like it was so underrated, and unfortunately, the problems that he had just kept following him. Yeah. Like every territory that he was in, because he was in Mid-South, I think, with
Buzz Sawyer.
Well, he's with Buzz Sawyer, Hacksaw, and then Ted DiBiase. They had that little that stable they had.
Oh, I can't remember what the name of it was, but
I can't for the life of me. And it escapes me at the moment. But they pretty much ran the UWF, but the problem was nobody liked Matt Bourne. So it's like you're part of this main event angle, and nobody likes you, so you got to leave. And he was always talented, always a decent in-ring worker, but he always rubbed people the wrong way, and that's what undid his entire career. And it's unfortunate because
they should have healed him up sooner.
They should have, but he also had the talent, I thought, to be at least a decent top star, especially as an evil clown. The way he did it, that would have been money.
Good.
Now, one of the creatures is Johnny Rich, and I don't think too many people remember that. But the other one is Joey Maggs, who you might have bumped into him because. Oh
my God! You looked him up.
You damn! I'm trying to be professional here, bro. Now I was going to ask.
This match should have been on Saturday night or main event, though. This is a syndication match.
Do you have any recollections about Joey Maggs?
Joey's a great guy. Worked for us in Georgia All-Star, North Georgia Wrestling Alliance. When local Georgia territory when he wasn't doing stuff for WCW. Great guy, great hand, a legit tough guy. People don't realize that he may not have been Scott Steiner or Dr. Death, but he was not someone to mess with. Joey. They put him in when they first brought Sid Vicious in to WCW, or they brought it because they brought him in as part of the Skyscrapers, and then he left. And when he came back, they booked him with Joey on house shows, to get his style up to WCW style from the WWF style. And when it was over, I remember the first night they did it was at the Georgia Mountain Center in Gainesville, and we saw Joey after the show, and I just said, how was it? And he just goes, snug. I'll never forget how he said it, because apparently Sid just beat the hell out of him. Because Sid was getting back to, because he goes to WWF where it's, it's nothing but daylight. You can't get close to anybody. In WCW, it was, you can lay him in if you want. And so he took that to the extreme, no pun intended, and really roughed up Joey. Not on purpose, not to hurt him, but just he was ready to, work snug again. And Joey just snug.
Yeah. I think at this time, well, obviously considering he's creature number one, at this time I think Joey Maggs was mostly just probably doing jobs for the company.
Yeah. When did Joey pass? Joey passed way too young.
2006. I looked it up earlier.
2006?
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a sentence that defines a good portion of the industry, especially the 80s and the 90s crew.
Yeah.
Passed way too young.
I was watching something the other day, and my wife was sitting in the living room there while I was watching it on the big screen, and she was watching, it was something about Brian Pillman. And I said, Pillman was the one that started all of this. That when Brian died, it was not unheard of for wrestlers to die young, but it was unusual. But when Brian died, it was like the floodgates opened.
Oh, yeah.
And then it didn't stop until Chris killed his family and killed himself, which was 10 years later. So in that 97 to 2007 run, Joey must have been caught up in that, or was caught up in that. That's too bad. He's a good guy.
So the next match is one of my favorite underrated wrestlers of all time. Beautiful Bobby Eaton. May he rest in peace. It wasn't that long ago since he passed away. Against Terrence Taylor, a.k.a. Terry Taylor, a.k.a. for WWF OnlyFans, the Red Rooster, with Alexander York, who...
Wait a minute. He has an OnlyFans? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my God. I got to call Terry. Things
cock-a-doodle-doo!
And then last...
Really hit the skids for Terry.
Then Terry is with Alexandra York, also known as Marlena, also known as Terry Runnels. And they're York Foundation.
Correct.
Yeah. Our first early idea that a computer was going to tell the wrestlers how they're going to do their matches. Little did we know that in 1991, she'd done be predicting the freaking future because AI might be running WWE allegedly.
Yeah. Good.
Cody, do this. Says ChatGPT.
Doing a good job.
ChatGPT tells Cody, do a pile driver. Triple H says, but those are banned.
I mean, they don't.
It's a joke.
Well, that's you think.
You think.
I'll have to
explains a lot.
Alexandria York is Terry Runnels was always stunning to look at, but I really, really love the eyeglasses nerd look, and let's just say, awesome.
No,
Dustin Rhodes was a lucky man during that short time they were together.
I thought this was the best she's looked, and I thought this was the best the Terry Taylor's ever looked. As far as like a presentation is concerned, if he stayed like this his whole career, he probably would have been like a major star because he looked like $1 million. And this is of course after the Red Rooster gimmick, which could have demoralized the guy, where he's just like, I'm never going to do anything again. Where it's like this, if they stayed consistent here with Terry in this gimmick, I felt like that he would have had a chance to become something really big.
Yeah, but then suddenly freaking IRS showed up, and they were like, forget you, Terry Taylor. IRS could join York Foundation and became the new focus.
No.
Yeah. But what did you think of, Scott, what do you think about Bobby Eaton as a wrestler?
Oh, God. Top 10 of all time. Just amazing. How Bobby was what, 60? He was mid-60s when he passed.
Yeah.
And he was still able to walk. That blows me away. As much as he did off of the top rope and just those flat-ass bumps in the ring and high back body drops, I don't know how he, until he passed, unless something was going on that I didn't know about, he could walk. He, could go to the store and walk to the kitchen. He could do what he wanted. And that's an incredible athlete. And it's not news, but an amazingly nice guy, fun to work with. And he'd tell you a god-awful promo, but didn't have to be anything but. He either had Jimmy talking for him, which he had forever, or they put him with Regal, who did the talking. They put him with Zbyszko, who did the talking.
That was some funny stuff, him and Regal.
Yeah. So
that was
just
some really fun stuff.
Yeah. Eaton is another one of those wrestlers, and Terry Taylor is too, that actually probably just arrived in the business about 5-10 years too soon. Is when the more work rate era comes upon us. If they had been in their 20s when the work rate era hits the American wrestling scene, they probably would have had a completely different career trajectory.
I agree with that. I agree.
That's true.
Like, imagine if Terry Taylor was 25 and joined Ring of Honor in 2004. He might have been a freaking star.
Yeah. I remember Terry Taylor breaking in that rookie year in 79, 80, working Georgia, doing jobs. And he's such a good-looking guy. They knew they had something with him. And so they wouldn't bury him. He wouldn't come in and, get mulkied all over the place, but he was terrific. He was terrific from word go. He was great.
Yeah. Do you have any really good experience with Terry Taylor? Because I'm sure you bumped into him quite a bit.
Oh, God, Terry? Tons. When, when was this? I think it was when WCW went under. And I'm not talking, speaking ill of his late wife. But they were still married. She was still with us back in the day. And I saw Terry at, TNA, and I said, "Hey, what you been up to? Welcome back." And he just said, he called her the Queen. The Queen couldn't handle me being home all day and not working. So all she kept saying was, "Get a job." And the way he would imitate her was hysterical. Just, "Get a job, get a job." And he ended up going to work he was going to sell cars, and I think that lasted about a month. And then he went to work for Home Depot, like working in the store out there in Gwinnett County where he lived. And he was still doing that, I think, when, I don't know who would have called him from TNA, Jeff, Jarrett maybe, or whoever, and brought him back in. But, just, anytime you can get Terry to talk about his wife, and she has since passed away, a lovely woman, and she was nothing like he talked about. She was very nice, very pretty. And then Terry, I'm not going to tell the story. I'll tell you guys off the show because I don't want to embarrass Terry. I think the world of him. But there is the night that Vince Russo got speared into the security railing by Goldberg through the cage at Nassau Coliseum.
That was when he won the title.
Correct. And from there, we came back into wherever we had the hotel. Obviously not far.
I was bleach.
I was in the car. I was in the front seat, I think, with Ed Ferrara, and Ed was driving. Maybe I was driving. Whatever. And Vince, who was legit unconscious, he really got concussed when that happened. And Terry were in the
one
back
that drove
seat.
him out of the business for a little bit.
Bro,
Yeah.
I'm concussed, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was is that the concussion that actually put him away from WCW for a while?
It put him out for a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Not long because he was the champion, but whatever. I'm not going to tell you what the conversation was.
5-star classic champion right there.
Terry Taylor said one of the funniest things. I mean, not Terry. Vince Russo said one of the funniest things I've ever heard in the business, and being around it for 40 years, to Terry Taylor from the back seat of that rental car. And I'll tell you guys once we're off the air, I'm not going to embarrass Vince or Terry with that, but I still to this day, it cracks me up. Just makes me laugh from my toes to the top of my bald head.
What was it, bro? What was it, bro? I'm going to say WCW, bro.
Oh, no, it was nothing like you. If I gave you...
Because I would have laughed at that hysterically.
If I would give you 10,000 years, you'd never guess it.
Just for curiosity's sake, when did you... I know you're here at Halloween Havoc as a fan in 1991. When did you actually start working for WCW in any capacity whatsoever?
December 1995. That's when they called me and had me go in and audition. And I started in, February 96?
Okay.
Yeah, because we talked about on one of the past shows that you were there the night that Hogan turned at Bash the Beach.
Yeah.
So you kind of gave us like a first-hand kind of like...
Yeah, was Bobby saying, whose side is he on?
Yeah, we actually need to do that as a show, the Bash at the Beach sometime. That
we do.
Show.
Just
didn't want to do it too close to Hogan's passing.
Yeah. I mean, 30 years. I think it's going to be 30 years next year.
All right. Well, that's going to be on the list.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you probably didn't get to meet Terry Runnels very much. But what was your take on her with what she does in the business in general?
Yeah, she was already gone by the time they hired me. Met her a couple of times at some of these conventions and stuff. A lovely, beautiful woman, just very nice. I remember thinking this girl has her head screwed on way too straight and is too pretty to be in this business. Now, and in full defense of AEW and TNA and the WWE, most, if not all, of the women involved in the business have their head screwed on straight and are really, really pretty. But back in the day, you either
more
were
Sunny or Sable types.
You were Rhonda Singh or you were Sable, and you couldn't be both. Well, Sunny was good looking and didn't have her head screwed on straight. Rhonda Singh was very smart and looked like low tide. No offense.
Yeah.
But Terry was one of those from the times I've met her, and what I've heard was one of those who had her head screwed on straight, was nice, was professional, and obviously was staggeringly good looking. I agree with you. Dustin was a lucky man. And I think he would take the same thing.
The sexiest looking cigar smoking I've ever seen in all of entertainment, not just wrestling.
And that nerdy corporate look when she was Alexandra York, that was fantastic. She was the makeup girl for WCW.
Huh.
Yeah,
she was.
I want to second in the next match with a question. Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay, here's my question for you, man. Okay, did they I know you were there as a fan, but do these people really honestly think that they could have Michael P.S. Hayes out there in Chattanooga, Tennessee as a heel, bring Johnny B. Bad as a face, and expect Johnny B. Bad, as flamboyant as he looked at the earlier point in his career, and think that he could possibly remotely get any kind of a face reaction beyond it? I like Mark Mero as a wrestler, mostly for his WCW work, but it blows my mind that they have So my question is, what were they thinking? I mean, I know you can't know, but tell me, what were they thinking? How could you present this guy as a face against...
I could not agree more. First off, Michael Hayes, anywhere in Tennessee, is going to be a baby face. I don't care what they're booking, what they're anything.
They can make him a Nazi, and they'd say, "Yay!"
Atlanta suburb is
because Terry's from right there at Saudi Daisy, which is just southeast of Chattanooga, and they cut their teeth up there in Tennessee. Michael Hayes is not going to be a heel. He's not. When he was a heel, he wasn't a heel.
Wearing a Braves jacket with also doing the chop at the same time.
Yeah,
like
he milked the crowd. He's
taking the piss out of this. Like
he was in no more danger of getting over as a heel as, like you said, as Mark was of being over as a babyface. And this was again just how screwed up the booking was then. Like what they did with Matt Bourne, and then Johnny B. Bad was a great character. That was another dream character.
That was an underrated character, yes. I agree.
But not against Michael Hayes.
No.
Definitely not at the early point in his career when he hasn't been fully established. I mean, maybe if it was 1994, maybe you could make something work of it. But then again, I think the majority of the Johnny B. Bad run, he was actually a heel. But not at this point.
No, he was a babyface.
Confoundably, really?
No? Yeah. Between like 93 and 95, he was a babyface.
Right, because Austin was a heel when he was wrestling Austin, and those incredible matches in 94.
When Max Payne hit him with the bad blaster on Clash of the Champions, and I laughed my balls off when I was 10 years old. I thought that was one of the funniest goddamn things. And he's just, because it's a confetti gun, and he just shoots him in the face, and he's down there goddamn confetti gun!
I think Max Payne got legit hurt out of that, though.
Max Payne's laughing his ass off.
Boy, Max Payne was a missed opportunity. I don't mind telling you. I mean, I don't know. He was legit, Daryl Peterson. He was like a legit amateur. He was legit, he couldn't get himself in shape. He just looked like this tubby guy that we pulled out of the trailer park, and he could really play the guitar, unlike Van Hammer that we'll get to later. He could really play. He could tie you in knots. I mean, I don't think they ever had it, but it wouldn't bother me to see him and Rick Steiner tie up and see, who
really
could go.
Hard. It's really hard looking up Max Payne because of the video game series.
Right.
Because I got Max Payne 3, the video game, the film, Max Payne 2, the fall of Max Payne video game series, Max Payne character, Max Payne British property developer and philanthropist.
Oh, yeah, he built my first apartment.
Yeah.
He did not.
Johnny B. Bad. I'll say this: they had good theme songs for a while. Like, Johnny B. Bad's theme was good. Barry Windham's is great.
Rick Rude's was like really, really good.
Legendary. Oh, it was so good.
Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know who wrote all of those?
Jimmy Hart?
Michael Hayes.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Of course.
damn.
That explains the more rock style because Jimmy Hart's more of a different approach.
Yeah, Jimmy would write good songs. But you know, Michael Hayes would, where Jimmy would say, "Who's the character? What are we trying to get over? What's the vibe?" and write the song. Michael said, "What's his name?" and then write the song around his name. You know, he writes Ricky Steamboat the Dragon, loves his wife and kids, and does the best he can. That's not going to sell a ticket or a T-shirt.
No.
Oh,
And
that's
then
why.
you know, I'm talking about Barry Windham. He even had to put the wrong, emphasis on the wrong syllable of the song on his last name. And then the Man Called Sting. You know, God, which wasn't the theme that Sting used coming into this show was that just that elect. That was great.
That was
I
great.
preferred that theme so much. I would have wished they would have kept that at least until they got to the Crow Sting theme. That's so cool. Man
Then we
Called
got
Sting
Michael
sounds
Hayes,
hokey.
A Man Called Sting, which was dumb. No offense, I love Michael, but those songs. Go find that. Was it Slam Jam? I mean, they put out an album of all of those things.
Too cold. Do 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 do.
Oh God!
Yeah,
yes.
did he write the Too Cold Scorpion song? The Too Cold Scorpion song.
I guess it was.
That might have been
album.
Too Cold who wrote it. I don't know. That was one of the weirdest music videos ever.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I feel like I'm giving Scott PTSD a little bit on this.
Well, that happened the minute
Slam
we started
Jam.
the show. That happened during the show prep, honestly.
Here's a good palate cleanser, though: Steve Austin versus Dustin Rhodes.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
And this goes the full 15 minutes, which perfect way, especially if you're a heel for those WCW television title matches, because it's like, well, he could just retain the title because this is going to go to a draw, and then people are just will pay for the next match.
Steve Austin's second wife is the manager, Lady Blossom. I think second. Yeah, second.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is Chris Adams' ex-wife too.
Yeah.
That
I
poor
wonder
girl.
why they call her Lady Blossom. Anyway.
Dustin Rhodes always kind of gets thrown into the category of Nepo baby at this point. There's a lot of criticism around that era, especially of WCW, that he's pretty much pushed in the position that he is. But I've always kind of argued that I felt like Dustin, he's definitely a better in-ring worker than his dad. I mean, his dad is one of the best promos ever. In-ring work, if he's put with the right guy, he's excellent. But on his own, sometimes it's like, But Dustin is a phenomenal in-ring worker. The only one that I'll ever think was a complete Nepo baby, and sorry to cut you off, David, but the only one I thought was a complete Nepo baby was Eric Watts. Not Dustin Rhodes.
No, Eric Watts could actually just starting to learn how to work a little bit when he got to TNA, but even then it wasn't great. But I want to say, like, Dusty Rhodes is flair and flash, if you will, whereas Dustin Rhodes feels more like work and ring. You know what I mean? Like work ethic and stuff in the ring.
Yeah. No, he earned his stripes here. Like, in my opinion, this is his proof that he can sit there and tell everybody. It's just like, look, I can fucking do this.
He doesn't have that.
Not just because I'm Rhodes, all right? Like, I can do this.
He didn't have that. They call him the natural theme yet, which I really dig.
Oh, it's the same one that was written by Michael Hayes.
Probably.
I'm sorry, I like it. They call him the natural. I don't think it really fits Dustin Rhodes for what they're trying to do, but the theme slaps, and I will stand by. I'll stand by that as my opinion.
Barry Windham sounds like Greg Allman wrote it. Like, it literally is like an Allman Brothers ripoff. He's smoking and it's oh, jeez.
I don't know if it's on Spotify or not, or where you can find it. But
Probably
just
YouTube.
Listen to that thing start to finish. It's not very long, maybe 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And just tune out and listen. And that's some of the most atrocious trash you'll ever hear in your life.
Rick Rude's theme though still slaps.
The Tina Turner
Yeah,
impression.
it's so good.
It was the the best of a bad lot. That's true.
Like, yeah, I can understand Sting's. Sting's is more. Even though I will take these infinitely better than Hulk Hogan's WCW theme.
You don't like the American Made?
Oh God, it's terrible.
Well, it makes you think of better days when it was a real American.
He's a man with blue. Oh God.
Well, the best WCW does have the best ever Hulk Hogan theme though, but it's not that one. It's Voodoo Child.
Of course.
Voodoo Child. Oh my God.
Now you have misspoken, David.
Okay.
Because no less than Mike Tenay told us when the NWO angle was first coming out, and when they were using that porn theme, they were using that, but they wanted to use the Hendrix song, so they had to get the rights to it. And I think we paid $100,000 for the rights to play that pretty much whenever we wanted. And when it first played, Mike, NWO is walking out, which I think was still just Hall and Nash and Hogan. It might have had DiBiase by then or Six, but whoever it was, they played that, and Mike said, to the strains of Voodoo Chili, here comes the New World Order.
Chili?
Oh my goodness.
I almost passed out when he called it Voodoo Chili. And I love Mike to death. Haven't talked to him in 20 years, but unless he's changed greatly, he's still a great guy, but he called it Voodoo Chili.
How do you? Oh my
I'm actually
God.
surprised. He's not that old. I'm honestly shocked he hasn't showed up in AEW or anything.
I don't know. He showed up for the Hall of Fame at TNA, and that's it. I think I told you guys last time we did this, we did StarCast in Vegas, where he lives. And that StarCast in Vegas was the best thing I've ever been a part of. There was like 150 guys there, and me and Sean Mooney were the host of the whole thing. It was incredible. I had a blast. And we thought, well, this is when we'll get to see Mike again. Nope. He went to Maine for the entire week.
He must just not want to be involved no more.
I guess. I miss him. I wish he would.
Maybe he's just done.
Yeah, everybody gets there eventually.
Everybody just gets their breaking point. They're just like, I'm done.
Yeah, a lot of Steve Austin is most famous for his work in WWF. Obviously, everybody knows the Stone Cold Steve Austin. People who aren't even involved in wrestling know Steve Austin. I mean, like people will know Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, The Rock, and maybe The Undertaker and John Cena. So they know that. But his actual best matches, some of his best matches anyway, are in WCW. This is a good one.
Without question.
This is a good one. And he has many that are. Yeah. He has many that should be on a DVD of just called Steve Austin's best matches, like his match with Ricky his matches in '94 against Ricky Steamboat and Johnny B. Bad, for example. This was where he really had his working boots on. This promotion.
Also with him and Pillman, one of the best tag teams of the 90s.
Oh yeah, Hollywood Blondes.
Oh. And they just broke them up after 6 months. It's like, great. You guys really make sense.
That's I think when Bischoff first took over, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think initially he was relying on Ole Anderson to help book the show initially, and so
correct.
God knows.
Yeah.
And then eventually they kind of figured out they shouldn't use Ole Anderson. And then I think Dust.
But that unfortunately was after they decided they couldn't use Steve Austin, who was famously, wasn't he fired by FedEx or something?
Yeah,
they fired him by FedEx.
And Steve Austin had Eric Bischoff on his podcast, and one of the questions he asked was about firing him by FedEx. And I thought that was hilarious. Hey, you fire me by FedEx?
What? Why'd you do it?
And then and Bischoff was like, yeah, but if you hadn't been, you wouldn't have become that big star in WWF. I was like, yeah, you silver tongue devil.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. It's like, because if he stayed in WCW, would they have done anything with him? Because the
With Hogan coming in, hell no.
Hogan would have been like, no, I'm not working with him. He's not even in my league.
There's a rumor that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, so it's just like, no. Like, and then he went to ECW where he that's when people realized, oh shit, he could actually do other shit. But then he goes to WWE and it's just like, you're the ringmaster.
Horrible.
You're the ringmaster.
Well,
but my favorite, now I know this is off topic, but my actual favorite ringmaster match that he had was that strap match with Savio Vega. That was right when he was about to shift from ringmaster to Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's like a borderline between the 2 points in his WWF career. But that strap match was pretty freaking good.
Yeah,
Savio Vega's underrated. That was a good hand.
Should have been King of the Ring in '95 too.
Oh, well, whoops. There's somebody showing up in the next match, and he was the Super Shredder in Turtles 2.
Bill Kazmaier, all right.
Here comes. I don't know what else happened to this guy in the business. Clearly, he got forgot. Here comes Oz. Kevin Nash.
Well, this was the last appearance by Oz. This was right up there with Seven floating in down the ring. He
was submitted by a strongman named Bill Kazmaier, so I don't figure he had much left in the tank for WCW.
Not just any strongman. He was the world's strongest man for 3 consecutive years between 1980 and 1982.
He does have that stood for a long time.
He's got legitimacy. So it's just not like he's not like Ted Arcidi or some of these other guys. They're just like world's strongest man, never did really anything. This guy's got legitimate credibility.
Trying to think what they rebranded.
Probably shouldn't have been in the wrestling business.
I mean, trying to think what the next step for Kevin Nash was in rebranding after this, because I'm thinking, did he do that Master Blaster thing, or did he do Vinny Vegas?
Vinny Vegas.
He came in as Master Blaster Blade, and then he was Oz, and then he was Vinny Vegas.
There we go. That's a hell of a trajectory right there.
Because he saw My Cousin Vinny, and that's what gave him the inspiration for Vinny Vegas.
He never quite lost that. He still kind of, every once in a while when he's talking, he still kind of drops, especially wrestling promos, he still kind of drops into that, hey, yeah, kind of thing. Yeah. Just a little, just an ounce. There's 2% Vinny Vegas in Kevin Nash from that point on when on screen.
There is no question that you have to be strong to be a professional wrestler. I mean, there are only so many spots open for wrestlers who are not necessarily throwing around big weight in the gym. Not necessarily doing strongman spots either. But, somebody like, and we'll get to him in a minute, like Ricky Morton. I don't know if Ricky Morton, no offense, and I love Ricky, I don't know if he's ever lifted a weight. But so what? He doesn't need to. He's incredible. But if you're going to be a wrestler, the strength isn't your gimmick. It's a plus. It's a positive characteristic. But if you come in and go, I'm the world's strongest man, I'm a wrestler, no, that just means you're the world's strongest man. You're not a wrestler. And Kazmaier was the perfect example of that. He couldn't
Mark
do
Henry
anything.
years to learn how to do it.
Correct. And Mark Henry was trying. Kazmaier never tried. He was just horrible. I mean, he'll kill me. I've never met him. Hope he doesn't hear this podcast, but if he ever hears this, he'll find me and kill me. But I don't care. It's got to go sometime. But I just did not care for Kazmaier at all. Wasn't there those Battle Bowl things, one of those WCW horrible pay-per-view concepts they had, and he teamed with like Liger or something?
Yes, I think they because they do advertise the next Starrcade, which is the World Bowl.
The Lethal Lottery.
Yeah, so the Lethal Lottery.
Yeah, that was awful. The Wikipedia sums up Bill Kazmaier's entire wrestling career in 2 paragraphs.
Let's do a Royal Rumble, except it's shitty. All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I can do it in 2 words.
I think the best, at least the lottery thing, the best thing of a bad time had to been like had to be like Mick Foley there trying to get into a fight with Abby the Butcher in the middle of the fucking match, because they were all kind of feuding after Abby got electrocuted.
Right.
But like generally speaking, that's like me trying.
He was tortured. He was not electrocuted. He was tortured.
That's me trying to find a piece of gold in a big old pile of shit. Because that whole thing is exactly that. That's probably. I mean, Starrcade '91 might actually be the worst Starrcade out there, and that's with taking in mind the Russo Starrcade.
Easily the worst ever.
They had the worst year, I think, pay-per-view wise in '91. Even though
once they fired Ric Flair,
because Great American Bash was garbage. This show was 50-50, and then Starrcade was just like, okay, so we're just not gonna go. Oh, okay, so Luger is gonna face Sting at the next pay-per-view. Got it. All right, that's.
I'm sitting here. We're talking about that cage match thing, and I'm playing it over in my mind when I was watching it earlier today. Didn't they catch the ring on fire with some of that bullshit they did at the end with the electric chair?
They did.
Yeah, they did. And then they zoomed in while the referee's stomping it out.
This
actually. Of the 3 pay-per-views of '91 that happened after Flair got fired, this actually might be the best one of the 3.
I know.
The other one is the Great American Bash, and then the other on the other side is Starrcade.
And this match is 50, and this card is 50-50 at best.
Right.
Because some of these matches should have not been on the pay-per-view. It should have been on Saturday night, or it should have been on the main event.
Nice Saturday night. What did we ever do? I remember something else from that cage match when, I think if Vader wasn't Hagante was the first person out. I think Vader may have been second. So Vader comes out of that door on that haunted house looking set, and, Vader walks slow. That was his gimmick. Walks out with that big thing, and he's got his arms out, and those big old arms, that big belly, and he left the door open. And you see Mike Graham, come through the door and close the door. That was just perfect. I remember watching that thing like I remember this show sucked, and there's reason why. There's the first thing that sucked.
Hey, there's Mike.
Mike Graham, what's he doing here? Oh boy.
It's this show, just when you think like the Bill Kazmaier and Oz, then it's like we're gonna have Van Hammer destroy Doug Summers. Like, they treat Doug Summers, who, mind you, the previous half decade, he was tearing it up in the AWA with Shawn Michaels and the Midnight Rockers when he was tag teaming with Buddy Rose, and it was Doug Summers and Buddy Rose, and this
Pretty Boy Doug Summers and Playboy Buddy Rose, and
wonderful
I look at
team.
pictures of Doug Summers, and I'm really questioning. I see why Pretty Boy's in quotations.
A minute and 15
they're fun to watch if you go find their old matches.
They treat this guy, who is one of the most revered tag team wrestlers of the 80s, with Buddy Rose, and he gets 75 seconds against Van Hammer. And it's like, all right, as long as you paid him, I guess it's good. But
we don't get to hear about Van Hammer very much on this show, so I'd love Scott to tell us his thoughts and maybe some experiences with the guy.
Here's a couple of Van Hammer stories. Well, one Van Hammer story. When we were doing Georgia All-Star Wrestling, Joe Pedicino and I was the color guy and Joe was play-by-play. We did most of our TV for 1990. We were in Sparkle's skating rink locations. Remember skating rinks? I guess they're still around.
Yes.
But the skating rink is a perfect place to have a TV taping. You have that wide open space, put chairs out there. You don't necessarily have a high ceiling to do a lot of high-flying stuff, but nobody's going to be doing that anyway. So it was a cool place to have TV, and it did well. It would draw a couple of hundred people, look good, and Joe gives me the format for the show when we're doing 4 weeks of television at the time, which meant basically 12 matches because we were doing 3 matches a show. And then during a break, like between show 2 and show 3 or whatever, I'm like, Joe, I'm going to run to the restroom. Okay, cool. So I run to the restroom, and sitting in the floor of the restroom is Van Hammer. Has his gear on, has his boots on, and, he looks like $1 billion. He's a tall guy. He's in incredible shape, got long hair, nice looking fellow. And I go to the restroom and come back out, and the whole time I'm staring at him like, who is this guy? Are we using him? What's he doing here? And I asked Joe, I said, Joe, there's some giant steroid freak in the bathroom. And he said, yeah, that was supposed to be a surprise in the main event on the last show. And that's when he debuted. He came out and did basically nothing, but he just had such an incredible look. He was over like crazy for Georgia All-Star Wrestling. And he was on TV with us. I think he made one more TV, and then WCW sapped him up, brought him in, and the rest is history.
What kind of history?
He wouldn't be Private Stash, in the Misfits in Action or whatever. And
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah,
like
he had to be Major Stash.
I thought he was in Raven's Flock for a bit too, if I'm not mistaken.
He may have been. I can't remember. I'm sure Raven wants to forget that too. But that's Van Hammer. Not a bad guy. He was fine, but just a horrible wrestler. Came out with that guitar, and he had the misfortune of doing that when Daryl Peterson was doing Max Payne, doing the same gimmick, except Daryl Peterson looked horrible, but could really play and really wrestle. Van Hammer couldn't play guitar and couldn't wrestle, but looked like $30 million. And so between the two of them, you had the perfect gimmick. Unfortunately, neither one of them worked.
If WWF had him, he probably would have been Intercontinental Champion at some point.
Yep.
Because Vince would have just been, he's perfect.
He did look like a much leaner version of Tom McGee when you get right down to it.
He did. You're right. That's actually wow, you nailed it perfectly. I mean, both useless, but you nailed it perfectly.
Before I was talking about being out in Vegas for that StarCast, when Mike wasn't there, Tom McGee was there. And I don't know if you guys have seen him recently, but and you remember how Tom McGee looked in that match with Brett, where thanks to Brett, he looked like, Fujinami.
Yeah.
But that's how he looked. He just looked great, had this perfect body. And now, if that guy's 160 pounds, I'm shocked. He's like beyond not as big as he used to be. He's like, is something wrong with him, thin? Because he's still a tall guy, but he is just so razor thin. Obviously, I know one reason he probably is, but you don't get off the gas and lose that much body weight. I mean, maybe he's into like a vegan diet and runs 10 miles a day or whatever, but he was very nice, very polite. Fans liked him. They just couldn't believe it was him.
Yeah, that's he's one of those guys. It's like he's like wrestling fans at least know about him and kind of like get the idea of like, oh yeah. Like I know about him and all this stuff. But I don't know if like the entire industry look like if he's that well known. Like did a lot of people know who he was, or was it still kind of like, like I don't know.
Tom McGee?
I'm talking about Tom McGee, yeah.
I think he's kind of like, if I was to make a comparison to what fans know about Tom McGee, it's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger fans knowing who Sven is.
Yeah.
That big that big dude that Arnold Schwarzenegger kills in like 4 movies. I think that's where Tom McGee kind of fits for wrestling fans. So it's pretty much purists who are interested in that particular era, probably the majority of the ones who know who he is. And they're certainly not watching Conan the Barbarian to see Sven no more than we're watching wrestling to see Tom McGee.
I don't see him
he's
getting.
bad. He's probably a nice guy, like Scott said. It's
Yeah.
just he's there.
I don't
It's a
see
neat
him
little
getting a
fact.
huge line at Starcast. Like, a couple people.
Well, you can consider
like,
the people that came to Starcast. If you said, "This is Tom McGee," number one, they would say you look a lot different. But it would be wow, because he hadn't done anything like that. He was like the panda. That up until they were actually discovered, they were this legendary beast in the forest of China, and then they're like, oh, okay, they are real. Up until then, it was like, oh, there's no such thing as Tom McGee's like Santa Claus. But no, he was real, and he showed up.
I think that match might have. I don't know if I want to go this far on a limb, but I feel like that match might have revealed to some people in WWF the value of a good worker. It probably did more for Brett than it did for Tom.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
Exactly right.
Like, if you can make a guy who looks like ass not look like ass for 10 minutes, and he might be a guy that we like using in the future.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
If only Goldberg had kicked him in the fucking head.
Oh, God. Why do you got to bring that up?
Because why the hell not? Goldberg.
I'm still trying to get over that.
I hope I meet Brett. I just want to tell him. I want to say how much I loved him. I want to say all these nice things about him. Then I want to tell him Goldberg's a piece of shit, and then get his autograph. I'm going to give you a discount if I say it right.
I met him, and I didn't say that. I feel bad, kind of, but I didn't tell him to be like, hey, can you put "fuck Goldberg" on that inscription?
I hear he actually does do that. I've heard.
I bet he would.
I've heard fans that say he does that sometimes if they ask.
I
think I cut Scott off. What were you going to say?
Oh, I bet he would do that. That if you ask him, he probably, who do I make this out to? But David, fuck Goldberg, Bret Hart, and he'd do it. Fuck Shawn Michaels, same thing.
He seems to be okay with Shawn. It'd be Triple H he'd bring up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Triple H is, that's
if
true.
you caught him in 2000, what was the year that Sting got injured? Was it 2016 with Seth Rollins?
2015.
Yeah.
2015?
Yeah.
I'm sure for about a year afterward, he would have been writing to David, I blame Seth Rollins, Bret Hart.
Yeah. Well, it's because, and when I will move on to the next match, but Bret didn't hurt anybody.
No.
That was his gimmick, is that people were like, did I wrestle a match? Yeah, you worked Bret Hart for 45 minutes. Oh, I have no memory of that. It was like I was in there by myself.
And they said he was snug, too, but he was snug but safe.
Yeah, very safe.
Speaking of a match that definitely raised the bar of the show, Brian Pillman versus Richard Morgan with Richard Morton for the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship. It is the finals of the tournament, in something that really hadn't been tested here in the United States before by a real major promotion, at least.
This is probably the most historically important match to happen on this show.
Oh, without question.
It might be the WCW Light Heavyweight title, but this right here, in my view, is the birth of the cruiserweight concept in the United States. I mean, it existed elsewhere, at least the style of match, but it is the true birth of it here, in my opinion. I mean, I know they had, like, Tito Santana flying around and stuff, but this is, like, where they start solidifying it as an idea.
No, without question. And it sets kind of the blueprint for what especially Bischoff takes off with 5 years later with Nitro, with the cruiserweight division, in the comments that Paul Heyman has just been like, oh, in one night he just took my entire cruiserweight division. Like, he took Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, all the Mexican guys, one night just took them all.
I think you meant Hypnosis.
Psycho, hypnosis, whatever.
Yeah.
That was one of those great Bret Hart lines.
Yeah.
Or the one where he's just like, El Dandy, you're a great
That's the same
wrestler.
promo.
A jam up guy.
Yeah. He starts making fun of Dean Malenko's groin pull. Bret has a real odd history of saying people faked injuries, though, if you look throughout his career.
Well, I mean, he says that Shawn faked his injury when he lost his smile in 2000 in 97 for that. I lost my smile.
I love that bit, that lost my smile stuff. Wasn't that like after he and Davey Boy got beat up by like 8 Marines in Buffalo or something?
No, that was the previous injury. I believe he was the IC champ. No, 95. He might have been the tag champ. I'm not sure which, but he got beat up by some Marines.
He was IC champ.
So they had so in order to kind of write him off, they had Owen Hart injure him on Raw with an enziguri. It's one of the very first Raw storylines where they actually start treating Raw like an A show for a minute. So he gets this like fake concussion in order to write him off to heal up, and then he comes back. And then a year later is when he loses his smile, and that, I believe, according to his book, whether you believe him or not, is supposed to be an ACL tear when he loses his smile. But I read his book when I was in the Army. I didn't know what I knew now.
Enough about Shawn Michaels. Let's talk about Brian Pillman.
Yeah, yes. Hell yeah. Sorry.
Oh,
and
boy.
And Ricky Morton. I don't know. What do you think about Ricky Morton, his brief heel run? Because that's what he's in the middle of right here.
Ricky Morton is one of those talents for me that I can't objectively speak about him because I like just about everything he's ever done.
I thought he was good in this too.
He was just amazing because Ricky's not a big guy. This is not news. 5'9", 5'10", maybe 185. Not ripped out of rock, but just can cut a promo, can work, can sell, can get fire, can get a comeback, and can get heat. He's a prototypical wrestler. He's everything you could want, and he's 5 inches in height away from having been world champion.
They almost pulled the trigger.
You can't say he didn't have. You can't say he didn't have a Hall of Fame career. He might not have been world champion, but he had a Hall of Fame career.
Oh,
for sure.
Definitely so. And you're right. They almost did when they were doing that, where they pulled him away from Robert without breaking him up, and had him feud with Flair. When 88, 87. There were folks that thought they were going to make that move.
That cage match, and I think it was Charlotte when Flair came in on the helicopter, one of his most famous entrances.
Yeah, the Bash tour.
Yeah. And
I can't even find that match anymore. It's disappointing. I've been looking.
No, you can find it.
Really? I must have missed it.
You can find it. Go on WWE Vault on YouTube.
Okay. Fair enough.
The channel right now, as far as if you're an old school wrestling fan, not just because of a lot of the WWF old school content they've been putting up, but they have been putting up a lot of old school pay-per-views, a lot of old school shows.
That's because they're leaving Peacock, and then the library isn't going anywhere else because ESPN and Netflix is like, no, fuck you. And I'm a little salty about that.
I think their back catalog, though, I mean, that's nice that we don't have
money on YouTube.
Oh, it will, because you know how many I had to create my own channel now. Well, not my own channel, but my own playlist of just like a lot of the long form ones, and I just leave it on in the background, and it's because I'd rather watch it on YouTube than I would like Peacock or anywhere else, to be quite honest, because it's like then you can choose what you want, and then they do better with their. I feel like they do better with their web player than anybody else.
Oh yeah.
So
trying to go back 10 seconds on Peacock is like trying to. is like trying to win an Olympic gold medal when you're just a random ass dude. It's like, oh, it's frozen. Oh, it's accident. And then you got the picture of the cat from the Shrek movies, and it's like, oh, it's not working right now. Well, I don't even know why it is the picture of the cat from the Shrek movies.
This thing again.
It just boggles the fuck. Like Peacock was like one of the worst operating video players out there, and it was marginally better than the WWE Network version at the time because they really started to let that slide. But enough about that. I want to. Did you ever get to work with Brian Pillman at all in any way, shape, or form, or even meet him?
Oh God, yeah, several times, many times.
Yeah, you would have. You said you came in '95, so
yeah, he would have
been at the very tail end.
Yeah, I met him many times when I wasn't working for WCW, like during this period, because Brian was a big sheet guy, and I was writing for the Torch and the Observer and had been and Arena Reports and Mat Watch since like '85. So he knew my name from the sheets, and so I would meet him, and you're the sheet guy, and the same thing with Steve Prazak. So we met him, just at the bar after the show, or in the lobby if we could find a way in before the show started. But no, I never got a chance to work with him when I was working for WCW, but met him many times. Great guy.
I respect you, Booker man.
Oh my God,
love it. He was so good at that he still has people convinced to this day that was a shoot. Not the
Kevin
thing about
Sullivan acted like it was real. That's part of what sells it so well.
And Kevin Sullivan, Kevin Sullivan's no idiot. I mean, you can convince Kevin Sullivan that it's a shoot. You've done something. But it was all a work, and he was just so smart. It was like people think that it was a shoot when all he wanted was to get to the WWF. That's all he wanted. And he booked this thing and let me go to ECW and I'll be that'll show how much of a loose cannon I am. So he did. And then, give me my release so I can go. And he did. And then he goes to the WWF. And he had a release and everything.
Vince was like, Eric Bischoff must have been like, that mother.
That he did. Probably still does.
If that car accident didn't happen.
It's like
right.
The Booker Man thing is work, but the action that happened as a result of it is a shoot, and I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it is.
I'm pretty sure that Eric thought he was going to come back to WCW.
He did.
With a little bit of credibility. It's like, damn, shit.
2 car accidents in this industry.
Sorry. Oh, yeah.
2 car accidents have changed the course of history. Magnum TAs.
God only knows.
Yeah.
If I could go back in time, I'd let the air out of Magnum TA's tires just so he can win the NWA championship. But
was it all 4 tires?
You have to do all 4 because I learned this lesson once, and I won't say why or how. But if you air out just 1 tire, they can change it because they'll have a spare. But if you do all 4, they will not have a spare, and they will not be able to go anywhere.
And they won't be able to make it back to the TBS studios to be the special ref for the match between Kevin Sullivan and Michael Hayes. That's one of the great angles ever. You got no idea what I'm talking about. Kevin Sullivan's the babyface in Georgia in 1980, feuding with the Freebirds, and he's supposed to work Michael Hayes on top in the main event of the show, and Austin Idol is going to be the referee, and Austin no-shows, and he's not here yet, Mr. Sullivan. I don't know what to tell you. Well, he's going to be here, Gordon. He's going to be here. He probably gave me his word, and he never shows up. And then Michael Hayes comes out and goes, you believe the word of a piece of filth like Austin Idol. Austin Idol's not coming. You got worked. You got lied to. When are you going to wake up and see? And then Austin comes in his referee shirt and says something about he had a flat tire driving up from Columbus to Atlanta for the TV taping. And Michael says, well, I don't want to hear anything about your 4 flat tires. And Austin said, I didn't say anything about 4 flat tires. And then the ball started. And I mean, it was all over the place. It was incredible.
Yeah. That does sound awesome. So Brian Pillman at this time, he's not really developed into that loose cannon gimmick yet, or he's more of basically it's literally
White
flying
meat
Brian
baby
Pillman.
face.
It's all about
Right. Yeah.
It's all about what he can do in the ring, how fast he can go. He's don't know how many people recognize it yet, but he's changing the face of mid card wrestling right here in matches just like this.
Yeah.
Brian
Pillman was awesome. This was a great match.
I
Masterclass.
I asked before what about working with him, but what's your take on Brian Pillman's ring work at this time in his career, this early light heavyweight period?
Well, you got to remember, Pillman had already been in Calgary. He was in Calgary for like 4 years.
Yeah, did he train with the Hearts a little bit?
Yeah, working with the Hearts. Who did he team with?
Owen.
God. Yeah, he teamed with Owen, and he was teaming with other people like
Might have been Bruce Hart too.
Ben Bassarab and a bunch of other people up there. So he was getting, he's in the dungeon. Pillman's legit. And then he comes down to WCW. I remember those vignettes in '89 where he's flying a helicopter around Atlanta, or being flown around Atlanta because he was flying Brian, and wore the Cincinnati Bengals tights and all that because he played there. So he was already, by the time this match happened, he was already, in my eyes, a legit star. He was just,
I think,
waiting on the push.
I think people started to take notice with him in '89 when he had the match with Luger, I think at Halloween Havoc '89 for the U.S. title. Mm-hmm. And that's when I think people started to kind of take notice of like, this guy can go, because they made, number one, he made Luger look good. So everybody was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So it was, and it wasn't Flair or somebody else. It was like, wow, and so I think that's when everybody kind of took notice. But this is when the ascension of his in-ring career, like everybody is just like, okay, this guy's pound for pound one of the best in the world.
And
not
he's
just
an origin.
And not just as far as just for light heavyweights, but as far as the entire industry, he's one of the best in the world.
And this is an origin point for a lot of wrestling for a lot of the style of wrestling as it's become today. Right here, Brian Pillman is a huge grandfather of a good portion of it. He's one of the key progenitors, in my opinion. The speeding around in the ring and the flying around, all that stuff.
Yeah, him and Liger especially. I mean, and they end up having their classic in February at Super Brawl, where he defends the championship against him. But those two guys, as far as like, they belong on Mount Rushmore as far as like the founding fathers of light heavyweights and professional wrestling.
Oh yeah,
sure. Just keep your hands off of Bobby when you're running around the ring. That's one of my favorite Brian Pillman moments, and it's the one nobody remembers until you get reminded. And
I've seen it.
I know
that clip.
What the fuck are you doing?
Like, don't fucking touch me, or something. Oh, you're right. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And you just see Bobby walk down the aisle real quick, and then he just like gets on the microphone. I apologize if I offended anybody. One of the few.
Well, Bobby had like a real neck thing, and they had told him like one more bump and you could be paralyzed. So he wasn't going to do anything, take any chances. Yeah. And then Brian, who is not stupid, knew that and wasn't going to hurt him, but Bobby didn't know that. And
I watched an interview with Bobby Heenan, some shoot interview that he did after the fall of WCW. I don't know the exact year, but in that shoot, he said the reason why he joined WCW, which was WCW offered to pay for his neck surgery. Yeah. That was like the big thing. They offered him to pay for his neck surgery, his recovery, and all that shit. And it was like, and whereas Vince wasn't willing to do that at the time.
Right. I believe it. We were talking earlier about Bobby Eaton and how he was fine, could walk, and he was fine. But Heenan, who bumped around like Bobby Eaton did, but not nearly as much, was one bad slip and fall away from paralysis. It's another, how amazing was Bobby Eaton?
I always wondered exactly where Heenan fucked up his neck, because that specific thing.
Warrior.
Oh,
was it?
You're right.
Warrior.
I forgot. Motherfucker.
Yeah, it's just another reason that I it's funny because I've grown less. I have less animosity now towards Warrior than I ever have.
If wrestling fans watch
Ultimate
Warrior, if wrestling fans watch Ultimate Warrior and the pay-per-views only, they might get the impression that he's a semi-passable wrestler. You watch him on a Saturday night main events, you will realize he is one of the most overrated, horrible, god-awful wrestlers that has ever received a main event push in the history of the sport. And this doesn't count guys like Zeus who only had like one match. That's not a main event push. Ultimate Warrior had a real legit year-long push, and he might be the actual worst individual worker to ever have one, at least in a major company.
I can't disagree with that. He's in the discussion.
Jinder Mahal.
If it isn't him, who the fuck is it?
Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, Jinder Mahal is okay. He's not great. He's better than that, in my opinion. We're not talking about. I mean, I'm not saying he's like freaking Dean Malenko here, but I would argue he's better than Ultimate Warrior.
How about Ryback?
Oh
God, yeah. I think CM Punk was talking about injuries and made reference to Ryback in that one podcast without actually specifying. But I think is when Ryback kicked him off of the ring post and into the fucking Hell in a Cell, and Punk started holding his shoulder after that.
Allegedly.
I saw that match. Fucking God, it bugged me to no end. You put the guy on his shoulders and you march around like it's like one of those toddler shows.
Oh God!
A B C D E F G, and then slam the bitch.
Be more.
It just looks so stupid.
He is.
He was over for a little bit.
Well, yeah, he was over for like 3 days. And then people finally realize they're just like, oh God, he is worse than Warrior in my opinion, and he's more delusional than the Warrior, which is surprising.
Once Ryback got over enough that the crowds would actually say "feed me more" a little bit, Vince did the booking decision that he likes to do, where he just beats the guy for 6 months. If you go look at his match records, you use Wikipedia or some other source to track how hot he got. He gets really hot, and then he wrestles CM Punk, and then he loses like 8 months straight, almost every time. He loses at WrestleMania, and somehow he gets a title shot anyway, to which he loses to Cena twice in a row.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that's what you do. I know he's a shit wrestler, but if he's hot, and he was briefly, beating him for 6 months isn't gonna make a star.
No. He wasn't going to be one anyways. I think he got too full of his own shit.
I don't fucking like him either, but I don't know how I would have beaten him for 6 months. I would have tried to do something other than beat the fucker.
I would have beat him for 6 years, but that's my own opinion.
You said he was over for 3 days.
Yes.
Those days were like April 20th, July 15th, and November 1st. That's it.
That's
not 3 days in a row.
No, exactly. It's like he was over for 3 days.
Yeah.
But literally, it was for like 3 days of moments, and that's it.
We all knew he was green as hell. But then the way that they had that light on him, that weird light on him, and it actually made him look like physically green. It just shined in a strange way to get him like a green hue. I'm like, man, you're just kind of bringing home the point that he really doesn't know how to work yet.
They were so thin though at certain points. They just push these guys because it was like, well, who else do we have? It's like, I don't know. You still got a solid mid card. You could start pushing some of these guys that can actually work instead of just some nobody.
They'd have done better pushing Zack Ryder, even if they didn't make him the world champion. He could have had a stellar match with CM Punk. It would have worked. People would have been like, wow. Can't believe Zack Ryder's here. He doesn't seem like a guy who should be. But that match with CM Punk was pretty good. That's how it would have gone down.
Well, knowing what we know now, you're exactly right. Absolutely.
I wonder who's a worse world champion at the end of the day, though. Jinder Mahal or Jey Uso?
It's a good
Now, Jey
question.
Uso got sabotaged by bad creative.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did. Okay,
He did
wins the
not.
title at WrestleMania, and then immediately they
And
make
the match
him.
sucked.
Oh, the match wasn't that great, but
The
listen.
match was in the finish. That he shouldn't have beat him by tap out.
I know. I get that. I know we're sounding like a bunch of marks here, but let me. Okay, he gets into. He wins the title, and then instead of having his own storyline, he winds up being background characters in everybody else's storylines. I mean, if you got a world champion and he's not the main star of his own story, then you're telling everybody I don't believe in him.
Well, I think the problem with Jey is the fact that like they lost confidence in him because everything that he was doing in the ring, like he was screwing up noticeably a lot.
Maybe it was like Sting at Starrcade '97, where he just wasn't quite tanned enough.
Well, I don't know. I would go. Well, that would have been my decision making if it was like, well, you go into WrestleMania that day. I would have been like, well, Gunther's going over. But I don't understand. And two, I'm sorry to say this, but I think Yeet was more over than he was. They pretty much.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, that I can argue with. Yeet and the little bowing thing.
Like he's got a great
The
entrance.
theme is more
Cool.
over than he is.
I mean, if he wins the Saturday night's main event, there's going to be a problem.
If they run him as a heel, I can see it working. The audience is ready to turn on him. I wouldn't want to have him as a good guy.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, just put the belt on Punk at that point.
It goes back to what Scott said about Mount Bourne. If somebody's just rubbing people the wrong way, why try to run him as a babyface?
Did you see the Netflix ratings that the week after that Seth Rollins has to vacate the title, the ratings went up?
Ah, shit. Well, damn. Anyway,
it's the truth. Like they released the data and the ratings went up like considerably because he's gone. So,
well, I like Seth, but I think everybody's gotten tired of Seth.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is the most overrated main event talent that they've had in the last decade.
Well,
he's a great in-ring worker, but every time that they try to make him the focal point, it has been a miserable failure.
So, to shift gears, the Halloween Phantom comes out to wrestle Tom Zink. Tom Zink, who, or as the Z-Man at one point he'll be known of in his career.
Oh.
There's a guy. There's a guy. Bobby Heenan used to say, $1 million body, 10-cent brain, or 10-cent mind. And I always kind of felt this applied to Tom Zink when I read on his career. I don't want to bury him too much because I don't want to get sued, but the short version that I can't get sued for is everything I've read about him makes me think he's a dumbass.
That's what I've heard consistently from like Rick Martel and so, and Martel, they were part of the Can-Am Connection, I think, as a team.
Yeah.
And Martel is just like, he's kind of an idiot.
Yeah, Martel said he got bitchy about WrestleMania. Like, how do you get bitchy about WrestleMania 3? Come on now.
You were on WrestleMania 3. I understand you weren't in the main event, but you were at least on the card. I'm sure your payoff
he's going to be in the main
decent.
event, not Hogan versus Andre. But anyway,
he passed away.
Before we get to the Halloween Phantom and whoever that might be, Scott, what's your take on Tom Zink as a wrestler and also your experience with him, if you had any?
Never met him in my whole life. But from just watching him as a fan, I would have also made the same mistake WCW and the WWF made, in that I would have booked him and built around him. He just had such a fantastic look.
Oh yeah,
and his work was serviceable. I mean, he wasn't Steamboat or anybody like that, but he was fine. He was good. He just wasn't great. But I would have seen nothing but unlimited upside to bringing him in. But then from the stories you hear, he was, again, he was the president, vice president, and parliamentarian of the Tom Zink fan club. He wasn't going to do anything to help the company, to help an opponent.
No.
He was just going to do what was best for himself. And I appreciate that. I understand it, but you're not going to get elevated. You're never going to be more than the Z-Man doing a minute and a half job for the Halloween Phantom on pay-per-view.
One thing I can say about Tom Zink that I won't get sued over is when the Hogan steroid trial was going on, and they were asking him about what WWF had done, and he was alleging that WWF had asked him to take steroids. They asked him a question. They asked him if he was still taking steroids, or he had been since leaving the WWF. I think, and he confirmed that he had in fact been taking steroids since leaving the WWF. He's employed by WCW, and it's my understanding that Bischoff attended some of the trial dates. And so one wonders why his career just kind of disappeared from WCW TV after those trials. Some mysteries are never solved.
Yeah, that's
I agree.
a serious one.
Like I said, there's a lot of things about him I just can't say, but that one has documented evidence in a federal trial. I think I can feel safe with that one. Now, who do you think the WCW Phantom might be? And don't be too rude about it.
Very good. And it was, everyone knows it's Rick Rude.
Yeah.
But why do you think people, this is the one place that Jimmy Cornette and I part ways when it comes to booking theory. Jimmy always had this idea that anybody that comes out of a box is going to be over. You bring somebody out of the box and leave them out for 2 weeks. Then the third week they come out of the box and whoever it is over. Because he had done it and he made it work so many times. That's because he's a good booker and he used good talent. Why not on a pay-per-view bill the return of Rick Rude? Seems like that would have gotten more, at least as many buys as saying the Halloween Phantom is going to wrestle Tom Zink. They didn't even say the Phantom was going to unmask.
You could have.
If they wanted to have this box idea, what they should have done is maybe like Rick Rude in a box on Saturday night, and then the go home show. Suddenly, it's Rick Rude. Either you say it or you make it so obvious that even sleeping children know it's Rick Rude.
Sure.
And then you can promote your pay-per-view around it.
Maybe since it's and we're spitball booking here, but maybe since it's Halloween Havoc, you have a coffin on the set, and and nobody's in it week after week, but it's just there. What's this coffin doing here? And then like on the go home of Saturday night before the pay-per-view, a hand comes out of the coffin and starts to open the door, and that's the last shot. We're going to know who was in the coffin at the pay-per-view. And then they stooge that off, and it's Rude. I just don't get it. I don't get and he looked terrible. Not that Rude didn't look terrible. Rude looked great, but it looked like any other jobber in a mask when he came out. And it was like almost no gimmick to it.
This was a year after what was the one that
Black Scorpion?
Yeah, Black Scorpion. This is a year after the Black Scorpion, so I think the stain of that still exists because the audience. Up until we find out that it's Rude, anytime the idea of the WCW Phantom comes up, the audience is like,
they were still shampooing
flying shit.
They were still shampooing the rugs from that pile of shit.
Wow.
If they had cell phones, they'd be checking out to see the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
They were still shampooing the rugs from the Black Scorpion when they had the Halloween Phantom come out. And
not a good idea.
At least they didn't have Ole Anderson doing a whole bunch of vocals for him.
God.
Paul Heyman did a better job of a mass Rick Rude in ECW than what they did in 1991 with the
That's exactly what I was about
Hollywood
to say.
Phantom.
That's true.
Because when they debuted him with the feud with Franchise, he was wearing the mask, but at the same time he goes out and he cuts a promo, and you hear the Rick Rude voice. Everybody's just like, ah! But then it's like he'll unmask it Barely Legal, which he did. But it's still like everybody knew it was Rick Rude. You're just going to get
And remember
confirmation.
the way Rude looked when he came out in the Halloween Phantom gimmick. Obviously, you can tell from the body that this person is. Maybe if you couldn't tell it was Rude, you knew it was somebody that was in amazing shape and probably
Yes.
had somebody you knew.
And back
But
then,
he
not as many
looked-
people looked like that.
In the gimmick that he came out in, he looked just like those two job guys that came out of the coffins in the opening match.
Yes.
That Scotty and Rick beat the hell out of.
So
he just looked like the third one of those guys.
or the or of course whoever was you guys you confirmed it earlier, Dave, but anybody who was the creatures, like he looked.
No, they used
It's
the
like
third creature.
It's the third creature. Oh my God, it's the third creature.
Yeah, he was either the third cage job guy or the third creature. Oh, so now he's the Halloween Phantom?
Yeah.
It's the Black Scorpion. No!
I've just watched a video of Jim Cornette recently, and he was talking about who was the greatest manager of all time, who wasn't Bobby Heenan. And I swear that man goes out of his way to try to avoid acknowledging the idea that it could be Paul Heyman. But I go back to this show in 1991, and I just see that Paul Heyman is there with Rick Rude, and Rick Rude is about to have what, in my opinion, might be the best work of his entire career. And then on top of that, Heyman's about to launch Steve Austin. It's like, it wasn't like Paul Heyman just got Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar big. Brock Lesnar was already big, but you know what I mean? It wasn't like he just worked well with those two. But Heyman, if you follow his career back, he has a lot of hits.
Yeah.
How can you not argue that he's in the conference? It's like a baseball, okay? If somebody's batting 400 in the major leagues, there's a certain point you've got to start arguing they might be one of the best to ever do it. And Heyman, as a manager, you could say he's batting the equivalent of 400 as far as being a manager, because most managers aren't making that many stars, and there's so many that are attached to Heyman.
There are things that Heenan's missing off his resume. He never was able to get somebody to manage to the WWF World Championship.
Yeah.
Yes, he managed Nick Bockwinkel in the AWA, but nobody, the outside of the WWE, WCW universe wrestling fans,
Heenan didn't even acknowledge it.
They don't acknowledge it.
Even Heenan didn't acknowledge it. He said he never got to manage a world champion, which means he didn't count Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah, which is crazy because Nick Bockwinkel was so damn good. And that was an insane run that those two had in the AWA. But no, he never was able to check that off his resume in WWF, where with Heyman, how many world champions, especially two, considering that this is the insane factor. The 3 longest championship reigns in the last quarter century have all been managed by Paul Heyman.
Yeah, CM Punk, Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Yeah.
Insane statistics.
But that's just current. Okay. I can see Cornette's argument if you say, well, it's a Johnny-come-lately because of what Heyman's been doing in the last 10 years. But let's go back. Let's hop in the TARDIS and go back to 2002, and we'll see.
Making Brock Lesnar.
Makes Brock Lesnar. And then he betrays Brock Lesnar for, I believe, the Big Show.
Yes.
And he's their champion. And then he betrays Big Show for Kurt Angle. He manages back-to-back 3 champions in a row, doing a traitor angle the whole time.
Paul Heyman is for the streets.
Is that not one of the greatest traitorous manager angles in the history of wrestling? Actually, Scott, what's your take? Is that one of the best of that type?
Yes, it is. I don't disagree at all. I think, as much as I love Jimmy, Jimmy hasn't managed in 20 years. So no, I think Paul E is the best manager in the history of wrestling. I don't think it's really close. I don't think Bobby was that great, to be honest with you. Bobby was a great character, but he wasn't a great manager. I think Paul E is first, Jimmy second, maybe Gary Hart is in third place.
Yeah, I would go with Gary Hart.
But Bobby isn't up there. But because for every Curtis Axel, there's a dynamic dudes, and everybody's gonna whiff once or twice when they're at the plate, but those two didn't much. But Paul's still doing it, and Jimmy's not, and I think that's the deciding factor.
Yeah, it's got to a point now that if you want someone to even remotely get over, you just kind of attach him to Paul Heyman a little bit.
Sure.
And it's been that way, to some extent since Paul Heyman was running SmackDown about 20 years ago.
He did whiff with Rollins.
Yes,
that was a big whiff.
Paulie?
Yeah. But that wasn't. I don't blame Paul for that.
Yeah,
I don't blame Paul for it either. I think they were trying to the whole portraying the whole Rollins turning joining up with Heyman at the end of WrestleMania was a good ending. It's just everything that came after that ending was shit.
And they made Braun and Bronson become J&J Security 2.0.
It's almost like going from like Blade 2 to Blade 3. Okay.
Yes,
that's what it feels like. Good
analogy.
Yeah. But here he is. Paul Heyman is going to be managing Rick Rude, and he's going to create the Dangerous Alliance, which is almost like a prototype of stuff like the NWO in a way. It's almost they don't say invasion, but the way they set it up, it feels like one.
Super heel faction.
Yeah.
One of the best ever.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't last long either. It should have lasted a lot longer.
Well, you know how Heyman gets along with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Bill Watts did not like each other at all.
That doesn't surprise
Bill Watts
me.
didn't like very many people, from what I'm told.
That's true.
He did. No, Jim Ross. That's the only guy I know that liked him.
Well, apparently Gordon Soley's an old drunk to him, so they must have liked him.
Gordon Soley, too.
Yeah, he liked Doc and Gordy.
He liked Vader, apparently.
Like Vader,
yes.
yeah.
Doc
and he
Gordy,
liked Ron Simmons. Bill Watts should actually get a little credit for coming up with the idea of pushing Ron Simmons, who we're going to get to in a little bit. We're not too far from him.
Well, this next match we can devote very little time to.
Oh, for God's sakes, please don't. Yeah, that's this is when Dan's saying that some of these matches belong on WCW Saturday Night. This is the match that I keep thinking of when he says it.
Mm-hmm.
This
is the height of Todd Champion and Firecracker's career.
Yeah, it is, and it's like
Firebreaker.
Of course, the two greatest ever, some of the best ever, Larry Zbyszko and Arn Anderson, had to be lowered to the standard of dealing with
the Cruncher,
of dealing with the Patriots, like Todd Champion and Firebreaker Chip.
The first time I watched this show, I was expecting Dale Wilkes. I really was.
That would have been great.
This sounds like two guys that you'd be on the billboard of like a Chippendales like expose or something. Like the names on these are just like, what the hell is this?
And it's a typo on Wikipedia. He was Fart Lighter Chip. Not Firebreaker.
So what was the atmosphere like with these guys in the crowd? Like, I'm assuming you got Zbyszko and Arn Anderson, who are probably, like, for the first times in their career, beloved baby faces up against the Patriots.
Well, the thing to remember, first off, I've never met Todd Champion at all, ever. But I knew Curtis Thompson from Georgia All-Star Wrestling. He started up there with us. And he was a terribly nice guy. He was actually, believe it or not, you're going to love this. He was the U.S. mail, Curtis Thompson, and he came out doing a mailman gimmick. But he was doing a mailman gimmick if he were a Chippendale dancer, like booty shorts, with like a vest that all looked like a mailman's outfit, a little mailman's cap.
But anyway, in booty shorts. I've seen a lot of that over the years, and not on the Divas.
If it's on the Divas, I'm all in favor. But that was Curtis Thompson with us.
A booty man gimmick.
But we were, I was thrilled for Curtis that he's getting the break and the shot. Champion, never heard anything bad about him. Great looking guy. But no, that's a dumb gimmick. Who on earth thought that? What was Todd Champion? He was military, and Fartlighter Chip was a fireman, and there was another one. There was a third one that was for a while. I can't remember what he was. Was he a cop? I can't remember what the third member of the Patriots
were. We get a cowboy, we might have the Village People.
That would have been fine too. It would have made as much sense and would have been just as over. But no, this was horrible. Arn and Ledge deserved, hell, anybody. The Creatures deserved better than this, and it was just a joke. A joke. The match wasn't terrible, but because you had Arn and Ledge in it, it's 10 minutes that I'll never get back. But it wasn't the worst match of the year. But it just
hindsight being 2020. Who would you even? Okay. I was just about to ask this question, but I already know the answer to it. This is a WCW World Tag Team Championship match. Therefore, if this is one of your tentpole pay-per-views and the Steiners are still in the company because they haven't left for WWF yet, it makes sense that you would have had Arn and Larry versus the Steiners instead of no offense, guys who the audience would see as jobbers.
But they needed the Steiners for the Chamber of Horrors match.
I'm sure you can dig somebody out there somewhere to do the Chamber of Horrors match.
The Hunchbacks of the Ding Dongs.
What David is saying is exactly what I'm thinking. You go back and look at that Chamber of Horrors thing at the beginning and sprinkle those talents in other places.
Yes.
Knowing that Barry's hurt and Hayes is hurt because Hayes was supposed to fight Hammer and he got hurt, so they brought in Doug Summers. But knowing that Hayes and Barry can't go, get that talent in that opening match and sprinkle that in other places. Wrestling Hammer, wrestling the Enforcers. God, putting over Kazmaier, but don't put over Kazmaier. There's just so many things you could do here with the why have the Creatures when you've got Diamond Stud and Cactus Jack? I don't understand why that match was there.
Hell, they had the Young Pistols. I mean, it's not they're not a terribly as well known tag team, but they're great in the ring. It was even better than that.
No,
I didn't do any research into this, but where in the hell are the Midnights and the Rock and Rolls? Were they with the company or were they gone?
Except for Eaton, the Midnights are out, and the Rock and Roll. Let's see. Morton, of course, is wrestling singles because Gibson, I think, is hurt or something, or he's out. He's either hurt or out or both.
Couldn't you have at least put a gimmick team together with like Stan Lane and Robert Gibson or something?
Yeah, what if they did instead of like a Midnight Rock and Roll All-Star team, like you just because you have Eaton, you have Morton, you could have put them together. You could have put them together as a team, like a dream team.
Sure, something. And we get the Creatures and we get the Patriots. I don't get it.
No, all I'm saying is the Young Pistols is in the company and they're a good working team.
They're fantastic. I love the Pistols.
Not even on the card.
They're not even the fucking card.
And it's just, but the Creatures are, and the fucking Patriots are.
Maybe it's because that the Young Pistols are close with Cornette, and Cornette's just had that falling out with WCW management. That might be it. That's a guess.
Thanks to Ole.
And Jim Herd, remember?
Oh yeah,
Jim Herd,
the greatest booker of all time.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Said by Jim Herd.
Jim Herd is the greatest booker of all time. Quote: Jim Herd.
So before the main event, we get this highlight package, just more or less talking about Ron Simmons. They have Bobby Bowden, who is at this time is the head coach of FSU. I think they're actually at this point they're the number one team in the country. At least that's so. This is they're treating this kind of like a big deal. Actually, Mac and I were talking about this by text yesterday. I was saying that I felt like that this was them testing the waters on Ron Simmons to be world champion at some point, which again it comes to fruition in less than a year from now. But
I think he's fresh off of Doom, isn't he?
I think he is. I think the Doom split had just occurred somewhat recently. the build up to this match too, which they don't really talk about in the pay-per-view at all, is they kind of go the route of the Booker T Triple H thing, where at some point during the contract signing, Lex Luger had mentioned to Ron Simmons that he would actually make a good show for him. So they were kind of teasing the racial angle of "you're beneath me, pal," and this is why, but not outright saying it. Of course, WCW has always had that kind of
Well, they're a Southern promotion.
Promotion, kind of a hidden open secret that, that they predominant, it's out there. If you go back in some of their lawsuits that they've dealt with in the past, there's been some accusations made.
Right.
But
And we're about a year and a half removed from the Hank Aaron situation with, I think, a year and a half, 2 years removed from Hank Aaron and the Bill Watts
this is
situation.
This is about a year and a half before that.
Before
that's what I meant.
Because
I meant before, not after.
But if you look at Bill's the booker in charge when Ron finally gets the championship.
Yeah.
So there are some things that he can, and I'm not condoning Bill Watts whatsoever. So people don't think that here on the program. All I'm saying is that Bill can say, "I made him champion," and yes, he did. But at the same time, there are other things that are against his case. But this match, I was expecting this match to be a lot worse than it was, considering the fact that this was not.
I didn't think it was bad at all.
Well, it wasn't bad. It was great. I thought it was really good for what it was.
Luger moved.
It was just the fact that, that was the thing that I'm getting to. Of this was Luger's leading on this. Like, Luger does not have Ric Flair kind of working with, or a Barry Windham, and this is also Ron Simmons' first go around of also singles kind of main event run, not in Doom anymore.
Yeah, but look who they have at the ringside. They got Dusty Rhodes, they got Harley Race. Luger's leading, but they got a couple drivers if they need it.
And they do. And that's why I think the match is really, really good. And two, what's funny is that there's a real pissing contest that's brewing between Luger and the company at this time, because Luger was the first wrestler really to have an agent, and his agent was telling him, "Yeah, I know you're the world champion and all this stuff, but you're coming up on your dates." So between this match and he has another title defense after this in November on Clash of the Champions against Rick Steiner, and then he shows up for Starrcade 91 for Battle Bowl. Then he is not seen or heard from on WCW television until Super Brawl 2, because he had maxed those dates out. So he pretty much said, "I'm going to do this, and then that's it." And so for 2 months, it's like they don't have access to the world champion on television. They don't have access to their world champion on the house shows, because they're still doing house shows at this point. So you wonder
maybe the future.
Why don't you just put the belt on Ron, considering the fact that this pissing contest with Luger is brewing, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
All right. Much as my take on that, as much as I like Ron, this is 1991, and I don't know if he's quite ready to be the champion. I mean, his 92 run wasn't all that great. Yeah, I know Bill Watts was booking. So I almost feel like wouldn't have gone with Steiner. Like, if they actually thought this was going to be a real problem. You said he wrestled at Starrcade, right?
He did. He wrestled at Battle Bowl.
Then they should have just had Sting versus Luger and have Sting go over to Starrcade, and they'd had their problem solved. I just don't know if I'd want to.
Well, Sting won Battle Bowl eliminating Luger.
Well, I'd like
So-
to get rid of the Battle Bowl concept completely and just book the normal show. Is there anything wrong with that?
No. No.
So, my main thing is, I recognize this is 2025. We recognize that Ron Simmons is a legend, one of the all-time best to ever do it in the ring. But in 1991, he's fresh off of the tag team run, and yeah, he did that pretty good, but he hasn't really proven himself as a singles competitor yet. So I don't know if I'd want to put the title on him just yet, when this is even his first main event match to even showcase that he can do it at all. And so I wouldn't want to do that. Even with the Luger problem, I would have preferred somebody like Sting to take the title. Scott, what's your opinion?
I agree. Not to in any way devalue Ron Simmons' ability or what he became, but he wasn't that yet. But he was on his way. And I will give credit to the Cowboy for putting that confidence in him and putting him on top of a pay-per-view, even if his hand was forced, really, because Flair was gone, Barry was hurt, whatever. But he did have Sting. He always had Sting in his hip pocket, and he liked Sting. We were talking about earlier about who Cowboy liked. He liked Sting, and I think he knew that he did have Sting in back there that he could go to, but there was this. But first off, Cowboy wasn't booking yet, but he would have probably booked this main event the same way this one was booked. I think that Ron Simmons, by the time Cowboy got there, was ready. Not here, not on.
The extra 9-10 months of seasoning probably did a lot for him.
Yeah, and he was ready then, and he did get the run for a bit, didn't he? Didn't he get some run with the title?
Yeah,
when Cowboy was there.
Yeah, he beat Vader.
He beat Vader, and then he ran it for the rest of '92, and then he lost it back to Vader on a house show at the very end of the year.
So it was fine, and and they knew that they had Sting back there. Waiting in the wings to come in. But I'll tell you, every time I watch this match, I'm reminded of, growing up in the 80s, I had access to wrestling from all over, just pure luck from where I lived. But I remember when Luger and Simmons broke in. They brought in Luger, and he was first brought in for like a month. He was called The Luger.
Thank God we got away from that.
He was The Luger.
Sounds like a spitwad.
And then I think Lex is the one that told him, this makes no sense. I should have a name. And he's the one that came up with Lex after Lex Luthor in the Superman comics. But they brought in Lex, and all he did was come out in black tights with a headband and a wife beater on. That was his gimmick. And then they showed him doing training with Hiro Matsuda and Duke Kiyomoka, and was wonderful. You could tell he was getting it. And then that worked so well, and Luger went straight to the top of Championship Wrestling from Florida. They tried it again with Ron Simmons and Dewey Forte, who were both college and USFL stars. And Dewey Forte didn't make it. I don't know why, but Simmons did too. So they did the same gimmick, and to watch them both a year apart break in with ostensibly the same entry path into at least what fans perceived the business that they were in, getting trained by Matsuda. And Matsuda legit was the trainer and trained both of them and put them through their paces. And they are good. They were good then. They're good now. If they were ever good, it was because of the training they went through in Florida. And it was really heartening to see these two guys on top of a pay-per-view, because they felt like, they were like my guys, because I got to see them from the beginning. I'd, never met them or dealt with them, but I had gotten to see. I remember when he's, hadn't wrestled his first match yet, and he's still, when his first show was in front of, 300 people at Hobart's Arena in Sarasota, that was cool to see them finally get on top like that. But it was a great match, and you were right, whichever one of you guys said it, about having Harley and Dusty at ringside. I think whoever put this together knew that these two guys could very well have fallen apart. they didn't, and I'm not sure that they even needed Harley and Dusty, but maybe Harley and Dusty did something that kept it going and got them back on track when they did fall apart. We'll never know.
They were,
They were there.
They were just there. They were there when
probably
they were
made
there.
them
They
feel
needed
a
it.
lot better too.
Oh yeah.
I don't think they made Ron look bad in this either because he did pin Luger within like 3 minutes with that spine buster.
I remember.
Right.
I remember legitimately being irritated when the over the top roll rule was invoked, which meant that was actually pretty good heat booking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the only way that it looked bad for Ron was that third fall when he ran himself into the post, which was, again, it kind of went into the story that Ron, this is his first title shot, and that was a rookie mistake where he ran into the pole and then Luger capitalized. It wasn't really a foul that was caused by Mr. Hughes coming down so it was like a nice clean finish for the first and the third fall. And the second one, of course, was just to piss everybody off, but also make it look like, well, the heel got one, like just kind of one on the skin of his teeth on that skin on his teeth on that second fall. But the third one made up.
Basically, for the fans that were paying attention, this is what they see. They see that Ron Simmons won one fall, Lex Luger won one fall. And because that middle fall for Lex Luger was Harley Race keeping Luger from going over, so Simmons go over, triggers the DQ. In a lot of fans' minds, that don't fucking count. So it's just 1-1. Right. So for the fans, Simmons lost, but Simmons didn't really lose.
Exactly. So it made Simmons look strong, and it also made Luger, he didn't
like a piece
lose.
Of shit.
Well,
he's supposed to look like a piece of shit.
He's supposed to look like one.
Right.
So it made more heat on Luger. So it did its job. And even with the beginning of it, like, because you see the promo package at the beginning, usually when you see those, there's going to be a title change, but there wasn't. And I don't think that's, in hindsight being what it was, it's like, would I want to see Ron Simmons? It would have been a cool moment for him to win, but at the same time, it's like, Luger's champion still. It's like, all right, like,
yeah, I'd have just done Sting at Starrcade if I knew there was going to be a problem instead of waiting for the Super Bowl. I mean, you could have had a minor change, like
Super Bowl Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry.
You could have had like a minor change, like Lex Luger coming out at the end of the show. You'd be like, you know what, Sting? You think you're so great? Why don't you challenge me right here, right now? We don't wait to Super Bowl, and you just get it over with. I mean, you're not going to sell your show with it, but you can solve the Lex Luger problem. There's so many ways they could have avoided not having a champion for almost 90 days.
Yeah, there's definitely ways that you could have done it, and it's like, I mean, Vince would have walked in.
We could have just got rid of We could have just got rid of the lethal lottery. I don't know. That would have been nice.
No, we gotta have the lethal lottery though. Everybody loves it. Who loves it?
Nobody.
Scott's got PTSD from it still.
It was terrible. But let me say this, and I agree with everything you guys said about breaking down this match. I am not a big Harley Race fan. I appreciate what he did in the business, but I have never been all that knocked out impressed by his work. I just wasn't. This goes back to when I was a kid and I turned on Columbus Championship Wrestling and they announced that Harley had beat Dory Funk Jr. for the title in 1973. And I'm thinking like, oh, cool, we've got a new champion. And then the minute I saw him and they started playing footage, I'm like, this guy's terrible. It looks like my dad. I don't want to see my dad with the belt. And since then, I'm just...
He legitimately looked like my dad.
I'm sorry?
He legitimately looked like my dad growing up.
His work just really was never there for me. And his promos, I thought, were average to below average. So anytime, if you want me to say what was wrong with this match, if Harley Race is in it, I'll say Harley Race. That being said, he wasn't terrible in this match because he didn't really have an awful lot to do. Thank goodness. But his run as that manager with Lex and with, I think he had Vader for a cup of coffee, and then he had Hercules Hernandez and that moth-eaten Super Invader gimmick, and he had Yoshi Kwan, Chris Champion. Just terrible. Those promos were god awful, and I hated it because I appreciate what he meant to the business and the history of the sport, but didn't like it.
Well,
just for whatever that's worth.
I think you're one of the only ones I know that have ever said that.
I don't think that I'm in the majority. I'm not in the silent majority. I'm probably a minority of one, not 1%, like one.
Like
but
I said, I don't
didn't
think
like it.
you're the first person I've ever heard say that about.
I personally like Harley Race, but different strokes, different folks.
No, that's just one of those that I never got, at all. Like, I don't like Ryback. I don't like Harley Race.
Oh God!
The only person who likes Ryback is Ryback.
Alone. That one you're not alone though. I think a lot of people don't like Ryback.
I did on an old podcast. I did like a 40-minute rant on how much I hated Ryback. I was literally just coming up. I was literally coming up with things. I'm just sitting there on the fly. I'm just like, I'm naming people that have been dead for like 3 centuries, and I'm just like, I like this person better than Ryback. Like, it's just anybody you could think of, because it's just he is at the top of my list of just like the worst of the worst. And because Warrior, it's like, all right, well, he looked cool. He had a good entrance.
Mm. And he had he had two good matches. He had the one with the Savage, and then he had the one with Savage at WrestleMania,
and the one with Hogan,
and then with Rick Rude at SummerSlam. Not the cage one. That one was okay. The one the year before 89. Was way better.
Yeah, 89 was really good. And then and then the Ultimate
Challenge. It's like a
Challenge,
prototype Attitude Era match. They were all outside the ring and everything.
And that 90, the Royal Rumble 90 with him and Hogan was sick too. That was a cool moment.
That was a good
what
match
people
for
thought
Hogan.
the match was going to be, and not the 5-minute blowjob spot instead. Warrior literally, you see the back of his head going.
No, I've seen it.
And Hogan got.
I mean, hey, it worked. I mean, the damn spot worked for some reason because
according to Bruce Pritchard, that show that show did about 15 to 20% less money than the year before it. So that's one of the reasons Hogan soured on face versus face for a long time.
Everybody that I know though brings that match up more than like. And they've definitely made their money back, too, because they still have merch coming out for that.
Yeah. I prefer, if we're going to talk Hogan matches, I'd rather watch Hogan versus Savage. If we're going to talk Warrior matches, I'd rather watch Savage versus Warrior. The first one. The second one, SummerSlam's kind of weird.
I agree with you 100% because Hogan and Savage is 10 times better than 6, and then 7 is 10 times better than 6.
Well, Hogan versus Savage is the best Hogan match in the United States.
Without question. I'm not even going to argue with you on that because it's the truth.
I mean, you might make arguments for some work in Japan, but in the United States, that's it.
That's it. I agree. Like 100% agree. 100% agree. And this is one of Luger's best
which only proves
too.
that when he was motivated and wanted to, he was a good worker. Granted, he's in there with Savage, one of the best ever, but still, he just didn't want to. He just wanted to do. Again, don't get me started on Hogan. Hogan's somebody else I don't like, but don't get me going with him.
Well, I mean, we've discussed that too a little bit, and you're also not the first person that said negative things about Hogan.
Oh God, please understand that.
Do you remember?
We'll give another year or two for his body to cool, and maybe we'll do a special Hulk Hogan show with you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Let's
do a show of everybody we hate. The whole
Scott,
show of people that we hate.
Scott, have you ever met Dan Bynum?
God, Dan Bynum. What was a promoter for WCW?
He was a director. He was in the truck. I've interviewed him twice, and he's also just as big a Hogan hater as you. It's funny.
Okay, then I'm sure I have because I was there. I would think that, well, unless he was doing it and then left during the 2.5 years Hogan was there before I got there, then we probably crossed paths at some point. I just don't. I remember the name, but
I
I
think
apologize.
I think he worked his way out of WCW about the same time NWO was taken off.
Yeah. Well, he also worked for World Class. He actually directed the Bad Street USA video.
Mm,
Yeah.
And then he
that
did
was good.
and then he did some Ring of Honor, I think.
Yep, he did ROH too. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think Keith Mitchell went over there too. So he
Yeah, Keith, I did know. Keith was terrific.
Yeah. But no, Dan is incredible. I've had him on here twice, and some of the stories that he was actually the director for the Parade of Champions show in '84. Actually, that was his last day. So he was at the Texas Stadium show when Kerry beat Flair for the title.
Damn.
And that was right after David passed away. That was the first memorial.
So we got
show
to hear
in
the
84.
live performance of "Heaven Needed an Addict" by that little 13-year-old girl.
Allegedly.
No, she really did it. I saw her.
No, well, Heaven needed a champion, not an addict.
That's what it was. My apologies.
Allegedly.
Damn.
Allegedly. Good Lord.
Jesus.
Heaven needed a champion.
Like the biggest run of bad luck in the history of any wrestling promotion.
I mean, no, the promoter could have just known that, figured out.
Well,
hey,
that was the first thing. There's a list of things that happens in WCW. That's why I said
my kids have a problem. Maybe after the second kid dies, you could figure out maybe there's a problem. Maybe I should, maybe you should figure it out after that.
I think there's only one of them left alive.
Yep.
It's Kevin, yeah.
That poor guy.
Kevin.
That's awful.
And I've met Kevin a couple of times. Can't say that I know him. A very nice guy, very nice fellow. But he, to this day, will still defend Fritz. And, Doris wasn't the problem, but Fritz was the problem, no question. And the reason those boys are all deceased are proximally, directly, and indirectly Fritz. And Kevin still defends him. And, it's his dad, and I'll respect that. But, I mean, hell, Fritz ran over Jack Jr. He electrocuted himself in the yard in a puddle.
Yeah.
And, I'll just never forget that story. And Kevin told it when I think it was Kerry that was dead. Was it Kerry that he went to? Fritz and Doris were living in a house trailer or a camper while their house was being built.
Oh no, it was David.
Goes up.
It was
David.
It was David Von Erich and David Manning.
We're time framing based off who died when.
It was.
Sure.
This was '84.
Which Von Erich died is our time frame here.
It was David Von Erich. David Manning got the phone call at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning that David Von Erich had died because it was in Japan.
Right.
And so then he had to drive all the way to the motor coach where Doris and Fritz were staying because they're having their new house on Lake Dallas built.
Right.
And I hated to cut you off.
No, it was what Fritz said to him.
Yep. When he met him at the door. When he met him at the door, he said, "Which one?"
Yeah. It was cold as ice.
That line still like a cold shiver just goes up your spine of just like he just met him at the door and said, "Which one?" And then like knowing, didn't even need to say anything.
Yeah.
Like almost. And I still haven't seen Iron Claw because the fact that when that movie got released, it was Christmas of 2023, and then finally when it got put on HBO Max, my brother died like around that same time. So I can't watch that movie yet because it's just that raw emotion is still kind of there. But I want because the funny thing is he wanted to see it too when that came out, and then he passed away, and then
I saw it on a plane ride to Dallas, and it's a good movie, but it's not anywhere close to accurate, and in some ways it's insulting.
From what I've heard, it's not accurate.
I hate when they do that.
They left Chris out completely.
Right.
They don't even mention Chris. Chris is kind of like the forgotten one of the brothers because he was just starting his career.
Was that the one MGF was going to play?
I think so. No, he was playing Lance Von Erich. Lance Von Erich was the fake cousin.
Right.
He was a cousin of the Von Erichs, except he really wasn't. And then
they did the whole Dukes of Hazzard thing.
The fans in Dallas found out about it, and so they had to actually admit that he was not a real family member.
He was supposed to be Waldo's son.
Yes,
Von Erich's son.
Yep. And then but that was after Mike got suffered his toxic shock syndrome, so they needed another Von Erich on the card, and so they were just like, "Oh, we'll just make one," and that completely backfired. Then, secondly, it's like, well, Mike shouldn't even be coming back. Mike shouldn't have
After
been a wrestler
1984, the history of WCW is, well, that completely backfired.
Yes. Like, 84 was that year of like, and the thing about World Class is that had David not died, they probably would have made a run. They probably would have been one of the bigger competitors against WWE. Other than Crockett, they probably would have been
the number
3 promotion.
The biggest thing about that in the history of David Von Erich dying right before he might be winning the NWA Championship is it was the only real opportunity at any point after 1981 of prying the NWA Championship out of the hands of the Crockett family. That was pretty much which because at this point in the 80s, the Crockett's largely controlled the NWA title. Yep. I mean, Kerry did win it for about I think it was 18 days, something like that.
Yeah, it was 18 days.
It was like there was a contract. It was going to go right the hell back real quick. But David Von Erich might have actually
they couldn't rely on Kerry. Like they couldn't. It was like, yeah, we're going to do the title change because we understand the magnitude of the situation here. But long term, this can't work.
But it is bigger than that because, everyone looks back at wrestling history in the 80s and they say, well, Vince McMahon is the biggest dick there ever was, whatever, because he's killing all the promotions. Mm-mm. But what people don't seem to think about is that Crockett was leeching all the promotions until they die, and he wasn't wanting to share a lot of the titles. And with each passing Starrcade, there's less and less people from other promotions. And like Ric Flair had said that they were so busy that the Mid-Atlantic was so busy trying to get themselves over that they killed the territories that they helped kill a lot of the territories that were providing them the money to run the NWA. And that's where this is really, really important because the best way to have fixed that problem is to pry the NWA title out of the Crockett family for a while and let a different NWA territory run it. And because David died, that didn't happen. And except for Kerry Von Erich and a couple of those quick overnight runs that they did here and there, the title stays in the Crockett family hands until the Crockett family don't run a wrestling promotion no more.
So what you were saying about the territories, that is exactly what happened with Championship Wrestling from Florida, what was left of Ole's Championship Wrestling from Georgia, which wasn't Georgia Championship Wrestling, a different territory, and Central States, and with Bob Geigel. But that I don't think that was Jim Crockett's fault. It was Crockett Promotions' fault. I think that was Dusty Rhodes' fault because Dusty would get his hands on that talent and bury them graveyard dead, 6 feet under.
Look what he did with the UWF.
All
Correct.
I know is
And Sting kind of survived that purge, but then you look at what they were doing with Central States, they would try to have them run as a separate territory with like Sam Houston on top and Todd Champion on top and Bill Dundee.
they must have been having a hard time.
They were terrible. It was nobody showed up at the matches because they knew every 4 months there was going to be a big show at the Kemper Arena where the WC or the NWA guys would come in and headline the show, and they'd go to that show. And so they're not going to any of the other shows with the local talent. It did the same thing in Florida, same thing in Alabama.
There's Jerry Jarrett allegedly had argued as early as the chicken salad. A side thing. I saw an interview with Jerry Jarrett before he had passed away, where he was asked about.
You sure it wasn't after he passed away? I think I saw one after he passed.
Well,
sorry,
it's all good. He was asked about Bruce Pritchard about the chicken salad joke, and Jerry Jarrett's response was telling him how to make chicken salad. It's like, oh shit! But Jerry Jarrett allegedly had argued before the booking committee in 1981 that the title cannot stay in Mid-Atlantic all this time, and it has to go elsewhere, or it'd be bad for the NWA as a whole. And allegedly, he was one of the first ones to voice that the WWF up in the north could become a real threat one day. Of course, it's self-serving because he was trying to get Jerry Lawler to be the champion.
Of course.
Right.
But you also got to look at where wrestling history went after 1981 and say, self-serving or not, he might have had a fucking point.
He was right. His motivations were his own, but he was right.
Well, what promoter doesn't have the motivations to be their own, right?
Right. I can't blame him for it.
Anyway.
I mean, if they stayed, let's say that Jarrett and Fritz stayed with the NWA and they did not secede from them at a certain point, and they spread the wealth a little bit. Lawler gets a championship run. David doesn't die. He has a championship run. I feel like those three territories, and then you throw Florida in there, those four kind of territories, now you're strong enough to take on the Fed.
Don't forget, UWF actually did really good in their specific region. They could have been in the mix somewhere, too.
World Class was also getting higher ratings in New York than WWF was.
So, like, the main thing is now this is a little bit of guesswork on my part, but if I was running a business that relied on a relationship with another business, say Mid-Atlantic, I would question why I'm paying dues to the NWA when my people don't get to win titles, don't get to win big matches, and after 1983, I don't even get to have their big stars help draw my towns with my people on the card. And at which point, I might be looking to terminate my business relationship too. And I'm thinking that's what Von Erich must have thought. I know that's what Jerry Jarrett must have thought. And I'm certain Bill Watts had that idea too. Would you agree? What's your take, Scott?
I think that everything you guys were saying is right. However, what was happening was from the ground up cultural upheaval in the business model, not just the business, but the business model. The territories were going to go away. They just were, because everybody was then going to have access to become a national promotion like Vince. And
if it wasn't Vince, it'd be somebody else go national.
Correct. And so since it was Vince, everybody wanted to do it. Crockett wanted to do it. Fritz wanted to do it. Cowboy wanted to do it. Vern wanted to do it. And they all did it. And they all failed.
Some of them wanted to do it before Vince did.
True. That's exactly right. Joe Blanchard wanted to do it before Vince did. But that's what happened. Vince was the one that did it the right way. And I am not one of those that thinks Vince has done a lot. He's a reprehensible person, and he's done a lot to get the scorn of anybody that loves the business. But shutting down the territories was not something he deserves that scorn for. That was happening organically, and they were going away to begin with. And Crockett shut down not as many territories as Vince did, but several. And
He might not have drowned the territories, but he might have taken a couple of their life jackets away.
Sure, and you can ask, if you ask Vince, ask anybody in the WWF back in the day, he didn't want to shut down the territories. He just wanted their TV.
Well, he would have wanted the territories to training. He wanted territories to be training wrestlers for him because up until OVW, then later FCW, then finally NXT, he didn't really want to spend money on training. He was relying on all these other people to do it. He used ECW to do it.
Correct.
He's still
his motivation wasn't to shut down territories. It was a happy accident, maybe. If you ask him, he just wanted their clearances without having to go to the work of, building them up and paying for them, even though he did.
I mean, the AWA though, he pretty much, he was fucking that bad. I mean, he took Hogan, he took even Mean Gene, and then
Vern did that to himself. Hogan wanted more money. Vern said, "No, fuck you." And then Hogan said, "Okay, I'll go somewhere else." And then Hogan didn't just talk to Vince. He talked to Crockett too. There was talks of it being on Starrcade '83.
Yeah, there was. He was almost on Starrcade, and that was also too. Vince almost got Harley Race to no-show Starrcade too. So I mean, there were two major things that could have happened at Starrcade that could have changed the course of history, so to speak. But but Vince was openly going after Vern. He was running St. Louis and St. Paul. Well, he was running St. Paul in Minnesota with AWA talent.
Yeah, Vern must have pissed him off. Vince acts like that when he's vindictive.
Probably, because Vince never went after Florida. He stayed out of Florida. He stayed out of the Mid-Atlantic. He even stayed out of Dallas. So there were certain boundary lines he just wouldn't cross. But he went to, and as far as they went, was Philly, D.C., Baltimore. They didn't go to the Carolinas. They didn't go to Florida at any point.
Baltimore is the kind of borderline between the WWF and Mid-Atlantic future WCW. It's kind of the place where both promotions go to for a long time.
They might have went to Houston when they took Paul Bosch over in the mid '80s, but that was it.
I think Chicago worked the same way for WWF and Vern Gagne, or maybe it was Detroit.
Well, because they played because WWE they always played the Rosemont, and then I think NWA would be at Chicago Stadium or another one of those, or the UIC or they had another pavilion building or something, but they would share towns. That's true.
Yeah, there's like these little border territories. It's this place where it's like disputed territory in the territory days.
It's like that one room that South Korea and North Korea can meet in.
Yeah. Hey,
it's kind of like
fuck you.
Kind of like Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is the one place where you can find a Crystal Burger and a White Castle Burger in the same city. Crystal doesn't go further north, and White Castle doesn't go further south, but you can find both across the street from each other in Murfreesboro. Don't ask me how I know.
It's the Mason-Dixon line of burger shop?
That's exactly what it is.
Damn.
Is Crystal's better than White Castle?
No, White Castle's better.
White Castle's better?
Yeah.
I've never had either. I don't have either one in my area.
Every time I have White Castle, I just feel like I'm going to die.
I have a
awesome.
I have a regional fast food place in my place that's largely popular in Texas, but it's over here in Missouri. It's called Brahms. Really friggin' awesome.
I'm gonna come over here. Come to Georgia.
Maybe someday. I don't know. I'd like to see Atlanta before it burns again or something.
Oh God.
Oh boy. All right.
I wasn't trying to make a crack.
Are we?
That's good.
So Scott, are we fighting now too because it's Falcons Patriots this Sunday?
No, the Falcons are going under. Falcons are counting the lights Sunday.
I could not believe that they lost to the Dolphins this past weekend. I'm like, how is that even
That's
possible?
horrible. I'm telling you, Tua Tagovailoa is he's the Ryback of quarterbacks, and he still beat us. He's horrible.
I don't even follow NFL, and I understand that reference.
He's so true, though.
He's the god awful worst.
Really is true.
But they beat us. So yeah, and keep in mind also, I'm a Florida State guy. So, we're going to lose to Wake this weekend, which is atrocious. So it's going to be a bad weekend.
I mean, hopefully you'll be able to get a lot of Halloween candies. That way you could just be like,
No, my daughter's 25. She doesn't trick or treat anymore.
Just go get it.
When she would trick or treat, I'd say, I have to go through your candy to make sure there's no razor blades in it. And all that she would have left is like peppermint and Starbursts.
Just go out Saturday morning and get half-price candy.
Yeah, that's true. Do that Saturday morning.
That little Saturday morning stroll at Walmart. Being like, why are there 4 bags of Reese's Pieces? Because they're half price.
That's right.
God.
You got some of those half-price candies sometimes. I work at Walmart. You'd be amazed. But you got to get there early in the morning because by the end of the day, it's gone.
Sure.
Yes, you got to go.
If they haven't bought it, Walmart has taken it off the shelf and shoved it in the back for some reason.
Yeah, and then they just rewrap it with Christmas in the next 2 months.
Well, the employees. All right, guys. I got to get up to go to work tomorrow.
Well, thank you for joining us again there, Scott. I truly appreciate it. We're going to have you back on sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Say
we didn't bore you.
You think, since you're having your surgery in December, you think we should probably wait until the wintertime before we try to bring you on?
Sure. I mean, the surgery's going to be, I'll be able to walk after that. So, do it December 3rd. I mean, I'll be great. It's up until then that I can't walk. It's tough. I'm going to work when we turn this off, so you won't see me. It would bring tears to your eyes to watch me try to stand up from my sister's dining room table and walk to the guest room. That'll take about 45 minutes, and it's right over there.
I'm sorry, man.
I hope hope the surgery goes well, man.
I hope the surgery goes well, and I hope you also are able to enjoy your Thanksgiving.
I want to do the Chris Jericho tribute show just to make Dan mad.
We're not doing it.
Hey, if we do a Hulk Hogan show,
that'd be good. We could do another Hulk Hogan Live show.
Hey, it was one of Cornette's biggest shows ever.
Oh, I agree. I love
that. One of his best clips.
In the metrics, he literally made more view on that show than almost anything else he ever did.
Oh, God, I've watched it probably 10 times. It's wonderful.
So have I. I've
watched it at least twice.
All right, well, Scott, thanks for joining us. Thanks, Dave,
thanks for having me, guys.
Tonight. Well, hey, you're welcome here anytime. Mac, thank you as always for joining. And we will be back next week to review Saturday night's main event. Hopefully CM Punk is WWE World Heavyweight Champion at that point.